What's up, good people? What's up, good people? We will be joined today by the lead attorney, as you can see in the title and the thumbnail. We will be joined today by the lead attorney. So let's get ready to go. Let's strap on in. Let's get it.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
One moment. Why is that still there? There it is. There I go. Now you can see me, everybody. And I see the lead attorney is down in the back chat. We about to get this thing started. Bowdy Thug in the building. First and foremost, shout out to the early bird squad, those that make it in bright and early before we even get things started here today. JR in the building says we have a lot of divorce dues. I'm sure they will have a lot of questions for the guest of the day. Absolutely. My main man, Ike Ogiamian, is in the building. Shout out to Ike. Al Boogie in the building says hit the like button on the way in. Absolutely. Hit the like button on the way in. He said, Ike says Nigerian style prenup. I'm interested in that. I didn't email you, Ike, but our next collab, I do want to have a more in-depth discussion about why you said the Nigerian divorce rate is less than 1%. I think they got some off. Do they count it as a divorce if it's like some off with your head type of deal? If the wife get out of line or try to leave, that should count as a divorce. That'll. But I am curious at how they get it down to less than 1%. I think it's a lot of homemade graves getting dug in the backyard for a lot of those lovely ladies to keep that divorce rate down to less than 1%. They digging graves back there. But without further ado, wait, hold on. Let me shout out a few more. Eric the Red, Queen Q in the building says, good morning, everybody. How are y'all doing this fine morning? Excalibur in the building. Queen Q says, already hit the like. We got Mike and Vince Perkins. He says, didn't want to miss the How to Shut Your Baby Mama Down Legally show. Let's go. That's a good. That's what I should have called the JR again. Yes, I confirmed. You chop them on up. Okay, chop them up. Yeah, feed them to the pigs. Okay, all right. NYC Song Man in the building. All right. That's everybody. I made it down to the bottom of the list. Cool. So that's everybody who's commented thus far. So without further ado, sound like mediocre tutorials and reviews. Without further ado, we have to bring up the man of the hour. Make sure y'all hit that like button as well. Make sure y'all hit that like button as well. My tablet at 7%. That's not going to make it. But let's get ready to go. Let's get it. We have the lead attorney in the building. Welcome to the show.
Bernard Riley, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. I really appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, no, you're coming through. Your sound is good. Your picture quality is crystal clear. I might have to get with you behind the scenes to see what kind of equipment you're using and everything. Yeah,
man, I just bought another camera. I bought 2 more lenses. I can't stop buying stuff, man. I think now it's just come to a point where I just like spending money on this. It's like just throwing money into a hole, because Lord knows I'm never going to get it all back.
Yeah, no, I was I was like that at first, and then I just pumped the brakes and said, at one point I said, whatever I got, that's what I'm using. And I've been
Absolutely.
on that. I've been on that for like the last 5 to 6 months or so. But I do want to get a lens because the lens, it blew me away when I found out that the lens actually costs more than the camera sometimes. That blew me away. So I might either get another lens or just start from scratch with a whole new camera and a new lens. So I'm looking at about $1,200 right there. So
I don't know, man. Your set is looking really good. I love it. I love it. I think it's awesome. I don't think you should change a thing.
Well, I don't know. I do. Well, I have my reasons why I want a different camera. I'm not, my audience knows, but I got my reasons why I want a different camera, but I'm not going to get into it today. But right out the gate, we got Deacon Dave in the building. He says Starbucks for the lead attorney.
Shout out to Deacon Dave, man. Shout out. He's a big supporter of the channel, man. Shout out to Deacon Dave.
Absolutely. All right. All right. The first question I normally ask people, just getting things started, it's a corny question I got from O'Shea. Because he used to ask people this question all the time. He used to always say, how did you find this space? How did you get into well, I think I understand the backstory, how you got into the type of content that you're doing, but what you're doing is kind of closely somewhat related to a lot of the things that we talk about here. I always say you break it down. You talk about a lot of the things we talk about here, but you break it down from a legal perspective.
Right.
And so normally I ask people, how did you find this space? But I suspect that this space that's known as the manosphere, or in this case, the Black Manosphere, possibly just found you after you just started doing your thing. So which one happened first? Did you find the manosphere, or did they find you? Like, what's the genesis of all of that?
Right. Well, for those that don't know, I'm a divorce attorney here in Atlanta, and I've been practicing for like 20 years, right? And so my whole professional career has been dealing with relationships, marriages, and divorces. And I really don't know too much, to be honest, about the manosphere and the red pill community. There are a few people that I would see, like, for example, I would see you, I would see O'Shea, I would see AMS, Coach Greg Adams. But that's kind of really about it. I know I used to work out a lot. So I used to be into Elliot Hulse. I used to watch his channel, and then he started to transition more into doing more of the manosphere content. But I'm really not too big on it. I don't know a lot of the players. For example, I'll see your show and you'll have 10 people on here, some heavy hitters, and I really won't know who they are, because I'm not entrenched in it. But I know of it peripherally. But like you said, because all of my whole career has been dealing with relationships, marriages, and divorces, it's kind of like there's a huge overlap, right?
Exactly.
Because it seems like the manosphere talks a lot about relationships, and especially the Black manosphere and the red pill community, a lot about relationships with women and Black women. And all I deal with is relationships. So there is going to be a lot of overlap there. And I think I was watching some of O'Shea's videos, and he put me on his channel, and that's when I went from like 1,000 subscribers and got another 1,000 and the next day. So shout out to O'Shea for really putting me on. But yeah, I mean, you know a lot more about this, and it's a great opportunity for me to kind of learn, because I don't really know too much about the difference. You know, I understand the red pill and the blue pill. I don't really understand necessarily where the purple pill comes in. It seems like some people are saying that the purple pill is a negative thing. Other people kind of view it as a positive thing. I'm not really sure on that. But yeah, the main import of my channel is just to tell men what's going on in these family law courtrooms, because they don't know. And when they find out, it is way too late. It is way too late. So many men are really suffering and can have their lives pushed back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years financially. I mean, as a man, you can lose so much, and you might not have the time to get it all back. And you would, if you could have made one or two different decisions, the whole course of your life would have changed.
Uh-oh. So wait, something just went wrong. You like borged a little bit, and then your volume, your line just went mute. So while I give you a second to unmute your line or figure out what's going on there, shout out to Pocket Watching with JT. I think you just came back. He said, yeah, Pocket Watching with JT says, I'm expecting fire. Respect, bros. Respect. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Pocket Watching with Appreciate you coming on through. Let's see Zero in the building, who should have some interesting questions. Zero.
Yeah, shout out to the Pocket Watcher too. I had him on my show. He was the first guest that I had on. I think I had him on last week. It was a great show, and he's an awesome dude. I'm so glad we were able to get it together.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it, but I did see that the two of you did get together. I'll definitely check that out when I get a chance. You mentioned your clients. It's just a curiosity question. I didn't plan on asking this one. What percentage of your clients are Black? I mean, well, you said you're in Atlanta, right?
Right.
Okay, so I would assume that well, go ahead. What percentage?
Well, that's interesting, you know, and you hear a lot about that, but honestly, it's very few relatively. I think that and Atlanta is a pretty Black city, but we have to remember that there's so many white people in this country.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Black people are, what are we, like 12% of the population? And if you're going to be really any type in any sphere that deals with a community in general, that deals with the population, if Black people or African Americans are only 10%, 12%, 13% of the population, you're really not going to see that many. You're going to get a few.
Right.
But it's much more prevalent. I don't want to say much more prevalent, but the numbers just reflect that in the white community, there are just so many more divorces because there are just so many more white people. And it's interesting because you'll hear people talk and they'll say, oh, well, you know, why is it that just Black people are getting divorced? And if you're a family law attorney, you you know that is not the case at all. Now, maybe in terms of the proportion, right, we are getting divorced at a higher rate proportionally. But again, we have some factors, we have some struggles, some obstacles in our own community that might exacerbate that, which might make the numbers in proportion appear higher.
Yeah. Well, we get married.
Tons of white people out here getting divorced.
No, exactly. Well, and also we're a lower population percentage, and we get married less. So that was part of the reason why I asked. I figured you would deal with some Black people out in Atlanta, but my suspicion was the majority of your clients were probably white.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just like rap music. I remember when everybody thought that, you know, it was only Black people listening to rap music way back in the day, and come to find out that the main driver of rap music was white, you know, these white kids in the suburbs, because there's just so many of them. There's so many of them. And so if you go to a concert or something like that, and you just look around, that's
exactly what I was going to say. When DMX died, they was showing all clips of all of his concerts, and he did some concert outside somewhere, and it looked like the whole world showed up. It was just people. It was just white people as far as the eye could see. Like those white people, they were going around the curvature of the earth. Like it was that many people out there. It was so, and yes, the curvature for the flat earthers. It's people that think the earth is flat. So yes, the curvature of the earth. It exists. It's a thing. But
that is exactly right. So I
but
think that maybe the numbers and statistics, they get thrown out a lot, but maybe we kind of miss the overall picture. And the overall picture is that, if Black people are only 12%, 13% of the population, that's all we got. That's all you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. One question I want to get into. You had a stream. Now I didn't watch this one, so this will be fresh and new, whatever you're going to say to this. But I'm asking this question based off the title of the stream, where you said how to pay less child support. Now, right. to throw the me personally out there, I'm all about going in there and fighting like hell for custody and fighting till you win, and just bare minimum walk away with half custody. that's and just fighting, just keep fighting, keep coming back until you get at least 1 week on, 1 week off. I think that should be the law. I think I heard you say that as well. As be an automatic 1 week on, 1 week off. But aside from that, was there some other way to reduce the amount of child support that one would have to pay?
Absolutely. And to answer this, it's best just kind of take a step back and to really realize how child support is calculated. Now, child support is calculated differently in all the states, right? So it's hard to kind of give a specific answer if someone says, "Hey, I'm from Oregon. How do I reduce my child support?" In terms of Oregon law, that's going to be something specific. But there are generalities, right? There are generalities. And this is something that men need to take into consideration. I offer consultations for my subscribers, and I had one yesterday from this gentleman, and he had 5 children. Right now, one way to reduce your child support is to not have 5 children. If you have 4 children, you're going to pay a little less, and if you have 3 children, you're going to pay a little less.
Wait, hold on, real quick before you go in on that. Confirm this one. If you have 5 children by 5 different women, nobody should ever do that, by the way. But but just hypothetically, if you have 5 children by 5 different women versus paying child support for the same amount of children by the same woman, it will be more will it be more or the same if it's spread out amongst 5 different women versus just one woman?
It's going to be different, but it's probably going to be a little bit more, just because when you have 5 children from one woman, they treat all those children as a group, right? And so you have like inherent discounts because it's 5. It's going to be more. I mean, it's going to be more than if you had 1 child, but it's going to be 5, and they're going to take into consideration. But the problem is when you have 5 different mothers, then each judge is going to try to look at that case discreetly, and you're not going to get necessarily the whole group discount. Now, you can say, well, judge, I have this kid over here that I'm paying child support for. And if you can show that there's a child support order, and if you can show that you're actually paying, you will get a small discount. But that discount is only going to apply to the, it's mathematically, it's just going to end up being that you're probably going to pay more if you have 5 different mothers than if you had 1 mother and it's 5 different children. And it can get extremely complicated as well, because if you have 5 different mothers, then one might move to another state, and now they're trying to get you got other states involved trying to garnish this money from you, and it can get extremely complicated. Whereas if you need a modification and you only got to go to one mother, then it's going to be a lot easier, and you can kind of track her down. So it's always best to have less children and less babies' mothers. I mean, you're going to come out better that way. That's a great question.
I cringed at that moment because it just dawned on me that if it's 5 different women, it's potentially 5 different judges that you're dealing with. So that's just adding insult to injury. I mean, I don't feel for. I mean, I do feel for the guy that's in that situation, but he put himself in that situation. It's no way you should end up in that situation. So I was just curious about that. But I don't know. I take it there were other ways to reduce the amount. But hold on, real quick before we get into that, we got Mac the trucker in the building. He says, salute to the lead attorney. It's good to see a successful black attorney in my neck of the woods. I probably won't be able to use your services because I'm not getting married, but salute. Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to Mac the trucker. And because hold on, wait, really quick.
Yeah, and salute to DeMac the trucker as well.
$10. I'll be damned. I'll die and go to hell and play blackjack with the devil before I give you $10. That's what I want to know.
Shout out to the Mac the trucker with the $10 super chat. Had to make another one. Shout out to the Mac the trucker. Appreciate you coming through with the $10 super chat. All right, what were the other ways that you were?
Yeah. So just taking a global step back, you want to, this is for the young ones, right? Just to let you know, if you have less children, you're going to pay less in child support. Also, what you want to look at is how much the mother makes. All right. This is very important. Now, in about, 10 states in the nation, it doesn't matter how much the mother makes. Your child support obligation is just going to be based on what you make. And that was the old way. That's the old model. And it's not a fair model, which is why most states have changed and made it to where both your paycheck and your child's mother's paycheck is going to be considered. But the more that your child's mother makes, the less that you are generally going to pay. So if you decide to have a child by some executive middle manager making $80,000 a year, you're going to pay one amount. But if you have a child by that, 23-year-old down at the Foot Locker, you're going to pay a lot more, right? You're going to pay a lot more. Do I need to go ahead?
Oh, no. You could have kept going. I would have got to that later. But since you took
perfect.
A pause,
Okay. I keep going.
No. Keep talking. I'll get to the super chats as I get to them. But since there was a break in the action, I do want to say right now, moderators, you all should be dropping the link to the lead attorney's channel in the chat room. I'm about to go get it right now. Or I know some of you already. Some of you probably quicker than me and could pull it up, drop it in the chat. Then the other moderators could copy and paste the link. And I expect you all to be spamming out the chat with his link, though. Okay, yep, Body Thug beat me. I was sitting here fumbling, trying to do it, and Body Thug beat me to the punch. Good job. Appreciate you coming on through right there for me. And so yeah, go ahead. Corner Store Podcast said he's just subscribed to the lead attorney. Shout out to the Corner Store Podcast. Appreciate you. I got all kinds of new sound effects.
I like it. Yeah, and shout out to the Corner Store Podcast as well. Excellent. You really need to kind of look to see how much the mother is making. Now, this is going to get a little complicated, but just generally speaking, it's always said in the manosphere and the red pill community that guys don't care how much a woman makes, right?
I was just about to go there because that's turned into some of the new dogma around here. We don't care what a woman makes; we make our own money, But
yeah,
when it comes, go ahead. There's some buts there. That's the thing. There's some buts there,
right? And biologically, I think that's correct. Correct. If you see a 25-year-old, you are not going to be like, well, I might, but what kind of job does she have? Where is she working, right? Biologically, you're not going to be concerned about that. The problem is in the day and age that we live now, in which we live, we have this legal underpinning that supports relationships. Mm-hmm. And so if you get into a relationship with this 25-year-old or this 30-year-old, this 35-year-old, and you don't know how much she makes, everything is going to be fine while y'all are together. But the instant that y'all break up, and if y'all have a kid or if y'all get married and now there's a divorce, this legal underpinning is going to swell up. And you're going to realize that you are behind the 8 ball because she doesn't make a lot, right? So what you focused on in the beginning, right, is maybe her attractiveness, her youth, her aesthetics, her body. That's not going to matter at all when child support comes knocking. That's not going to matter at all when you're in courtroom 3A, for your divorce. How she looks isn't going to matter. How much she makes is going to matter tremendously. What type of asset she has is going to matter tremendously. And so what I want young men to do, and even older men, is to guys, if we were back in the day, back in the Stone Age, there were no laws, right? So you could just whatever you wanted to do biologically, you could do. Whatever attractiveness, whatever factors you wanted to focus on, that was fine.
We were like the Nigerians out there. That was an inside joke to Ike. He told me about that less than 1% Nigerian divorce rate.
I heard him say that. That's amazing. I would love if he could jump on and kind of talk to us about that.
I'm gonna do a whole show with him on that. But they got to be just clubbing women, beheading them, digging homemade graves in the backyard. And we're gonna sweep this divorce under the rug. 6 feet under the ground. That's what they
yeah.
But anyway.
It's crazy. And, it used to kind of be like that in the United States as well. If you go back 100 years ago, 80 years ago, divorces were very hard to come by because there was so much dependency. So maybe there's some dependency in Nigeria as well. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you what, in 2021, there's very little dependency, and you can get divorced at the drop of a hat. No fault divorce is the rule in every state. And, 70% of these divorces are initiated by women. So you can, as a man, you can never get married and say, okay, well, I'm never going to get divorced, because it's not in your hands. It's not in your hands. If 70% of the women are filing for these divorces, I don't know why men think that they have any control. But to go back to my earlier point, guys, we really need to focus on, like they used to say back in the day, where I'm from, does the girl have any business about herself? Did she go to school, right? Does she have a job? Is her income stable? That's the only thing that's really going to help you from being really screwed over. Now, I want to say, and I want to be fair, that in a lot of cases, this child support, it kind of works. You'll have a case where, the father will make $75,000 a year. The wife will make, 70 a year, and they'll have one kid and they'll get divorced. And it's not like the father's, crying everywhere, because it's like he's paying more or less a fair amount. The problem is when, the father's making, 75,000 and the mom hasn't worked in 2 years, and, or when she was working, she was making $9 an hour down at the dollar store. Now you got a problem, because that child support is going to start to eat you up. And you're going to find out very quickly that you have chosen the wrong woman. So many of our problems that we have in this system would be alleviated if we chose the right person.
Right. But you kind of touched on that, because you said biologically it makes sense. And okay, they want men to be men and to be masculine and, provide for a woman. When you do what men have traditionally done for years, when you play the game the right way, you're putting yourself in a situation to where you're going to get screwed.
Yes.
So it ends up being a situation, and this is where we may get outside of your legal expertise and just your personal opinion, because we've had plenty of debates like that on this show where some men have said, no, if I'm going to be dealing with a woman, she's going to be working. She's going to be making close to the amount of money that I'm making. She's going to be paying for half of everything that's going on. And that's, as a chest beating man, I don't think like that. No, I'm not going to bring a woman in and say, you got your half of the rent. Like, no, I don't operate like that. I don't think like that. But given the current state of things, I can't knock the internal logic there. Like,
right.
I can't knock it. So what's your opinion on that? You're a man, you see a woman, she's attractive and easy to get along with. That's where men are that simple, at least in my perspective. Men are that simple. Find her attractive and she's easy to get along with. Done. Enough said.
Right.
Do you think men need to get out of that mindset given the current laws and just be be more calculated like women are when they're looking at this thing?
Well, here's the thing. I think what you said, if a woman is attractive and if she's easy to get along with, if she's feminine, is that enough? I would say yes. Yes, that is enough if she is strictly your girlfriend. If she's strictly your girlfriend, then that's going to be good enough. And a lot of men have excellent relationships, excellent boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, even into their 30s, 40s, 50s, with women who are like, hey man, I got my own stuff too. We don't necessarily need to be together, married. Right now, let's be honest, this is the minority of women, right? But there are women out there who are like, hey, I've already been down that road. Maybe I have a kid. Maybe I got married young and a divorce and I'm done with that. And they meet you, your life is already fully formed. And so you are just in a healthy relationship. And that's beautiful, right? That's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes in when the state gets involved, because the state's really not involved in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. But when you try to formalize that, when you start throwing around words like marriage, or you start having, you start producing people, you start producing children, then the state's going to come in. And that's where, when the state comes in now, as a man, you have to look at other factors. It can't just be that you're looking at how youthful it is, how youthful she is, how pretty she is she feminine, or is she more masculine? None of that stuff matters once the state is in. Once the state comes in, there are different factors, and the factors is going to be how financially set is she, how financially established is she? Because to the extent that she's not financially established, the state's going to get it from you. The state's going to get it from you because why? The state doesn't want to pay for you for her. The state does not want to pay for y'all's kids. So the state is going to find a way to extract the money from you, so we can go to those kids, extract the money from you, so we can go to her to support her. And it's not because the state necessarily loves women so much. The state just doesn't want to pay for them, and the state is going to make you pay before the state's going to pay a penny. Even if, for example, if you have let's say you have two children and you have 50-50 custody, right? And so technically, you're spending half the time with your kids and she's spending half the time with the kids. You really shouldn't be paying any child support. But in a lot of states, the state's going to make you pay, even if you have 50-50 custody, just to make sure that she doesn't go on welfare, just to make sure that these kids are protected. And it could be that even if you have your child support stopped, if you go to divorce court and you get a divorce and the judge says, hey, all right, both of you guys are making more or less the same amount, or both of you guys are going to share custody of these kids, no one's going to pay child support, you're going to find out that this mother can go and apply for a government benefit. She can go and apply for welfare. And when she does that, the state is going to come back and reopen the case and going to try to get child support from you. Why? To reimburse the state for the welfare that the state is paying the mom. See, I don't want to get too much into welfare because that's a rabbit hole itself.
That's a whole nother animal. But yeah, you more or less described my exact situation with my divorce, because right now my situation is 50-50 on paper. Now, what's happening in reality, my situation was crazy because, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, where the woman may have fought for, full custody and won, and the kids are with the dad every other weekend and Wednesday from 5 to 8. But on paper, but in reality, they're with him more. That's exactly what I was. Right. That's what I was fighting for, and then I ended up winning, and I ended up getting half and half. But then once I won and got half and half, and I still had to pay a little bit. That's what I was saying. You described my situation exactly. So I still have to pay, even though it's half and half down the middle, and even though it's half and half down the middle on paper. Now they're with me with my oldest. I mean, he's a senior. He just turned 18. He's with me full time. But wow. But even my youngest one, he's with me 75% of the time. So it went, even when I got half and half on paper, they both were still with me 75% of the time. So I could have went back and fought some more, but I was just like, nope, I'm just gonna pay the little bit. It's an insignificant amount. I mean, it's not. It would cost me more in paying lawyers to go try to fight again. Exactly. So I just said I'm just gonna pay the insignificant amount and just let her do her thing. But you did describe my situation kind of pretty close in how 50-50, even if it's 50-50, you still end up having to pay something. They want to get something from you. Shout out to Snuggles in the building.
Hi, I'm Snuggles.
Shout out to Snuggles. Says, for the attorney, what is the main cause of divorce or putting people on child support when you are in the room with your clients? Interesting question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the main well, there are a few main causes of divorce in general. Usually, it either concerns money or it concerns problem with the kids.
Hold on,
Uh,
really quick. When you say it concerns money, is it because we hear people making arguments here? So I just is it that just the man just don't make enough, or are they just fighting over, or just have philosophical disagreements about what to do with the money?
it's usually that the man doesn't make enough, right?
Ah, okay.
That's usually what it is. And because if let's say the father, let's say the man made enough, right? Let's say the man made 200,000 a year. Well, what's the problem? Right? Even if she's not working, there's still, if they spend their money correctly, there's not a problem.
Okay.
With the go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, no, how unreasonable are the women when it comes to the man not making enough? Like, are we talking about? I'm not going to begrudge a woman for divorcing an outright bum, but is she saying that the construction worker that's making 55K, well, that ain't enough, or the guy that's making 60K, 65K, working hard every day? So I was in that category. In order for me to see 60K, I used to have to put in a lot of overtime. I was
Right.
putting in a lot of overtime and steel toe boots to see 60K.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so for some women would say that ain't enough. So are we seeing situations like that where the woman is not really being rational, or the not making enough thing? They're legitimately divorcing bums who aren't trying to do anything.
Yeah, well, it can get complicated, and it can certainly be all of those things. What you'll really see, though, is that, let's say a woman gets with you, and y'all start dating, and let's say you're 26, and y'all start dating, and let's say you're making 50 grand, and that's sufficient for her. But then, at 28, she has a kid, right? So now you need a little bit more, and let's say now you're making 55. Well, then you have another kid, right, at 30. So now you got two kids, and let's say you're making 58. Well, now it's not enough anymore, right? It used to be enough, but now it's not enough now because your family is growing. You started out with two people in your household, you and her. Now you have four people in your household. And so, and let's say this too, life can be hard sometimes. A lot of people, you can get into debt, you can get sick, you can have something happen at the house, you need a new roof, something happens with your car. So you have these unplanned expenses. Also, let's throw into the situation that most people are just not financially literate. Most people make a lot of mistakes financially.
That's what I thought it was more than anything, because I still looked at that guy, even if they're adding more babies to the equation and he's, making 55 or 60K. Okay, they got three kids. That's not necessarily enough. But if she's working and making 30K, they can put 90K, they can put it together, have 90K and some financial literacy. They can manage that. They can keep it down to one car note and not a ridiculous mortgage, and still be functional. So that's
Right.
why that's why my assumption was it wasn't that he necessarily just didn't make enough. It was the management of the money more so, and the expenses, what they as a group had coming in versus what they had going out, versus the lifestyle she want to live. Because I think they get into that I can do bad, I can be doing bad by myself type of philosophy. That's my knee-jerk reaction to that. I mean, is it a lot of that going on?
Yeah, I mean, and that just, but let's be honest here too now. I mean, I don't have a problem pointing out flaws in women when they exist, but I do want to call a spade, and
Right.
it's a lot of dudes out here with F-150s and F-250s and F-350s. There's a lot of dudes out here with boats and
Oh shoot, we lost you again.
sorry about that. I don't know why
Okay.
that's happening.
There. No, it happened again. You got a bad wire. You got a bad cord or something just keeps coming out by itself. We'll try to, while you try to figure that out, talk to the chat room. Ike, 1% gang. He don't got those kind of problems. And he's Nigerian, and they got married in Nigeria. So if she try to leave or take half, he got the off with the head method in place. So no, so Ike is good. Ike is good. His assets are protected. They got a workaround on that.
Give
But
me
yeah,
1 second. Let me try to fix this audio thing, okay?
Oh yeah. Take your time. Shout out to Bowdy Thug. He's dropping the lead attorney's link in the chat right there. Make sure y'all go and subscribe to the lead attorney. And it's one of my favorite YouTube channels. Like I say all the time, a lot of the stuff that we talk about here in this space, he breaks it down legally, breaks it down from a legal perspective. Shout out to my man Soul Provider Speaks. Excuse me, Soul Provider Speaks in the building. And since we waiting on the lead attorney to come back, you're going to get the bomb and the shout out to you. Says good information and knowledge for men. Absolutely, absolutely. I think we got a debate in the chat. She says, hood conservative, who is the enemy that you speak of? You're my enemy. You my poser when I want justice. Had to go Ali on her. You my poser. Let me see what y'all talking about. NYC, broke men get threatened with the jail. Broke women get helped with everything. That is a fact. That is a fact. When a man who can't take care of his children may very well get locked up. A woman who can't do the same will get government assistance, subsidized, and incentivized even to have more kids that she can't take care of. So yes. I agree with the hood conservative. He says she has no right questioning a man in this chat. Ladies, they can ask questions. They can ask questions, but they gotta keep it clean and respectful, or they will get asked to not asked, but thrown out like the lady you see right there on the screen. They will get sent packing. Get sent right up on out of here. Right up on out of here. Marcus A. Brown in the building. He said, excuse me, says, I'm glad we're getting to the point where I can just cough now without everybody thinking I got corona. I think we've got over that point where everybody not drawing guns on you when you cough in public now. Marcus A. Brown says, I'd be interested to learn more about the marriage laws in Nigeria. I'm getting Ike on for that. Me and Ike will be talking about that. Brothers might want to throw that condition out there in the dating market dialogues. Shout out to you, Marcus A. Brown. Appreciate you coming on through. Appreciate you. We also got Mr. Shane Vicious. He says, I save 100% on alimony and child support by switching to MGTOW and a vasectomy. Shout out to you for that vasectomy. I do support vasectomies.
Absolutely.
I do support that. I haven't done all my research on how safely reversible it is, but I would support taking every boy at 16 to go get a vasectomy. And then he can go and get it. He can go get it undone when he's ready, if he chooses to. Right. I would actually support that, but I don't know how medically safe it is. If you doing that to boys that early, would that affect some things? I don't know all the rules and regulations and possible things that could go wrong. But yeah, I definitely support vasectomies. Absolutely. So shout out to you, Mr. Shane Vicious. You are you have full creative control to be as reckless as you want going forward. Salute to you.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Mr. Shane Vicious. Appreciate you. The reversal is more involved, but it is doable. Yeah, that's what I understood. But I still would like to. Anytime you go under the knife, something can go wrong. You could potentially die anytime you go under the knife. And if you're going under the knife with your your manhood under the knife. That's scary. But either
Right.
way, either way, I support it. I support it. But where were we? You were in the middle of saying something before you started glitching out. I forgot exactly where we were at, but
Yeah, I think just what we need to understand is that there's going to be a difference between what we want to do internally and what is in our best interest legally. That's a huge problem that we're facing now, because you want to get with the 25-year-old who's making $9 an hour, but if you do that, then legally you are going to suffer. And so what we need is information about how to do the things. What's the best compromise that we can get? The best way that we can try to, number one, get what we want biologically, but also be safe about it legally. And really, that's the point of my whole channel, just to give the young men the information that they need, because young men are just operating off of instinct, operating off of biology. And when they step in the courtroom, they're like, well, what's going on? And then it's too late. Right. So that's the issue that we have.
Right. How often would you say that men are actually going for 50-50 custody in divorce situations? For me, it's a no-brainer. You could either see your kids. Hold on. Let me silence my phone. For me, it's a no-brainer. You could either see your kids every other weekend, Wednesday from 5 to 8. So I mean, basically seeing them 4 days out of the month, and you got to pay for kids you can't even see. So it's a no-brainer for me to fight for 1 week on, 1 week off, and pay less money, or if any money at all. For me, that's a no-brainer. But how many men, or what percentage of men in your cases, are actually fighting for that 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off type of deal?
Yeah, it's certainly not the majority. And it's actually, I understand what you're saying. It's a no-brainer. And I think idealistically, I think that you're exactly right. But it's really a much harder, much more complicated decision, because where I'm at, for example, I'm in Atlanta, and 50-50. I mean, if you want 50-50, it's going to be a fight. And here's the thing. Here's the part that's so crucial. You can fight. You can easily spend 20 grand fighting, 40 grand fighting, 75 grand fighting, and then you can lose. It's not just like, oh, I fought, and so the mere fact that I fought means that I won. No. Like, you fought and you lost, but you paid, $75,000 in that fight. And now you don't have the $75,000, and you don't have any more custody. And now you might have problems paying your child support, because you're $75,000 in the hole. Right. And so now they're talking about putting you in jail because you can't make your child support payments. They're talking about suspending your license, garnishing your wages. They're talking about freezing your bank accounts. And so a guy has to think about all this when they say, well, should I fight? It could be that to really fight, it's going to cost you 80 grand. But what if you only have 30 grand to pay? Well, it's not a lot of men out here who have 70 grand to spend on an attorney. So what if you only have 15,000? You go to your attorney, you say, listen, this is what I'm working with. This is what I want to fight. How much is this going to cost? And your attorney says, okay, it's going to cost you 30 grand. And you look in the bank and you only got 12. So and then the mother's going to say, you didn't fight for your kids. I'm going to tell your kids that you didn't fight for them. I only had 12 grand.
All right. Okay. I'm glad you took it there, because we always use the term, you got to fight the system. But like I always say, the system is an inanimate object. It's like a gun. Somebody got to pick it up, load it, cock it, aim, and shoot it at you in order for you to get shot with it. So that system, and that is an inanimate object. So really, what you're really fighting is that woman. You're fighting the woman, but she's using the system as the gun, so to speak. And so I guess my question is, from the female angle.
Well, hold on, wait. Let me jump in though, and let me just let me backtrack a little bit on that.
Okay.
You say you're fighting the woman, it's through the system. In a lot of ways that's true, but the system isn't just some random gun, right? The system is a gun that's trained to look for you. Right, it's like a heat-seeking missile.
You made it worse.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying like a gun, it can be turned equally upon any person, and that's just not the case. It's just not the case. The gun is going to look for you. right? So you have this is a different type of weapon. This is like the heat-seeking missiles. This is like a man-seeking missile. Now, a lot of times, a woman will press that button to unleash that man-seeking missile, but a lot of times she won't. I mean, the system allows women to do a lot of things, a lot of terrible things. Now, sometimes they might have to lie to do it, and some women do lie to do it, right? But I just want to dispel the myth that, it's just equal footing, and it can go equally as against a man as it can against a woman. I mean, technically, it can, right? But the way things happen, really, in reality, it's going to go against the man the vast majority of the time.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I wasn't trying to word it as if it was 100% equal footing. I just wanted to just look at I wanted to more or less focus right now on just the female agency aspect of it, where when women are fighting against the guy getting 50-50 custody, would you say the majority of the time when the man does try to get 50-50 custody, the majority of the time the woman fights tooth and nail against it, or no?
Yes. I mean, because a man can't fight by himself, right? And so there is no fight if the woman agrees. If the man says, I want 50-50 custody and I'm going to fight for it, and the mom says, fine, you're a good father.
How often does that happen?
Very rarely.
And you see, that's and for that reason right there, that's precisely why I say no woman can ever complain about the dad not being around. When you look at the percentage of women when they were married to this man, he was a father in the kid's life all the way through. During the marriage breaks up, he offers what I call the ultimate child support, 50-50 custody. He supports the child half the time. You support it half the time. You can't get better child support than that. They will fight against the best form of child support ever and then criticize him for being a part-time dad. It's like
absolutely
that blows my mind that they do that and nobody calls them out on it. But hold on, Deacon Dave in the building. He says compare and contrast prenups and post-nups, please. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. LA, are post-nups taken? He says, I think he means lead attorney. Are post-nups taken as serious as pre? I guess we can go ahead and get into that. You can go ahead and answer his question, but I was gonna wait until the end to to get into that one, because that was the last thing I wanted to talk about. But you can go ahead and answer his question.
No problem. Yeah, and it's a great question too, Deacon Dave. Shout out Deacon Dave. Basically, they're the same. Can you put the question back up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
There we go.
Oh yeah. Okay. So compare and contrast them. Basically, a prenup is just it's a contract, right? It's a contract. It says, listen, we get divorced, this is what's going to happen, and it's called because it comes before. Well, prenup really stands for prenuptial agreement, right? Nuptial is the wedding, so pre just means before. So when you sign a prenuptial, you're signing an agreement that happens before the wedding, right? Pre being before and nup being nuptial, which is the wedding. And so basically it says, listen, if we get divorced, this is what's going to happen with our affairs, our financial affairs. Fine. What is a post-nup? Well, post just means after, right? So post-nuptial just means after the nuptial, after the wedding. So it's basically the same document. You're just signing it after the wedding. Now, there might be a little things you want to change here and there, but basically it's the same document. The only difference is whether you sign it before the wedding, which is the prenuptial, or after the wedding, which is post or postnuptial. Now, are postnuptials taken as seriously as prenuptials? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a contract. It's a binding contract. You want to make sure that it's drafted correctly, and you want to make sure that the formalities are there. But yes, it's a freestanding contract on its own, and it has the same strength as a prenup. A lot of times, I don't want to say family, let's say couples, they'll sign a prenup, and then a few years later, if they've had substantial changes in their financial situation, they'll sign a postnup. So you can actually sign both of them if you want. But yes, they're basically the same document. The only determining factor is when you sign it. If you sign it before or after the wedding, and then a postnup absolutely is taken as seriously as a prenup. So that's a great question, Deacon Dave.
All right. JR in the building says, I have I have eBay business. I could run from Laredo, Texas, and have wife in Mexico. I would come to US 3 times a week for business, then drive back. I would avoid US divorce laws and maintain leverage. Any flaws, Mr. Lead Attorney?
No. If I assume when he says that he would come to the US 3 times a week for business and then drive back, when he says drive back, he means drive back to
To
Mexico.
Mexico. Yeah.
So that makes me think that he is not living in the United States. And if you are not living, if neither you or your wife is living in the United States, then you cannot use our courts for a divorce process. Usually there is a residency requirement. So you will have to be a resident of a certain state for 6 months to be able to file your divorce there if your wife doesn't live there. So the fact that you live in Mexico and your wife lives in Mexico and both of you reside there mean that you would not file your divorce if you got divorced in the United States. Your divorce and child support would be it would be controlled by Mexican law, which is which is much more favorable than what you would find in the United States. So he's doing it exactly right. He's making money in dollars and then going down there and using the pesos. And man, that's the dream right there. Listen, JR's living good. I can tell by this question he's living good.
Shout out to JR with the $10 super chat.
I'll be damned. I'll die and go to hell and play blackjack with the devil before I give you $10. That's what I want to know.
Shout out to JR with the $10 super chat. Also, shout out to Classic 360 in the building. Says, great show, brother. Blessings to all the brothers in this space. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Shout out to Classic.
Everybody. Appreciate everybody for coming on through. Where were we? We were talking about the women fighting against the guy who's this part is just disheartening because I'm one of the people that I get going off what they call hopium sometimes. That's the drug of hope. I hope that things can get better amongst men and women, particularly black men and black women. So I do be going off that hopium. But it's disheartening when you think about this, just the simple fact that women in that going through a custody issue with the kids, knowing that the man is a good father, knowing that it's good for the kids to be in his life, they will put the best interest for the kids completely off of the table, not think about fairness. And there's that word that we hate, fairness. But the way I operated in my divorce, and maybe I'll be, if I could do it all over, I definitely would be more cutthroat. But looking at it, looking at the mind frame that I was in at the time, I thought it would be best for the kids to be with me 80% of the time and her 20% of the time. But I knew that wasn't fair. So I wanted to fight for what made sense. You know, she is a mother. Those are her kids. She loves them, I guess. So she deserves to have them. She deserves to have them at least 50% of the time. She clearly understood that it would be good for the kids to be with me because even after she got the order that she wanted, she still had them with me more off the record.
Right.
So clearly she understood that it would be best for them to be with me. But when it comes to that courtroom, men will go in your experience, these are men being more nice, more understanding, more doing what generally makes sense for everybody, and women are just being more just bloodthirsty and selfish about it.
Bernard, man, you're asking the real questions, and you said it. You said, and when you said, if you had it all to do all over again, you would be more cutthroat, and that really stuck in my mind because in fact, I just had a consultation yesterday with this gentleman that saw me from YouTube, and his situation. I'm gonna change a little bit of the facts, but he has 3 kids in California, and he allowed the baby's mother to arrange visitation in a certain way that really didn't give him free range to see all of his kids, right? He had, she would allow him to watch these 3 kids while they were in the house. And this happened for 5 years. And now they got into some.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
This is a true story. A guy is very similar to what you just said. A guy I worked with, he worked a lot of hours. This is when I talked about work when I was putting in all them hours on steel toe boots. Yeah, he was one of those guys working right side by side with me, steel toe boots, putting in a lot of hours. We were working a weird shift, like 3:30. We would go in and work from like 3 o'clock to 1 a.m. That was the normal shift.
Wow.
All the kids were school age, so he couldn't really see them during the week, and we would have to work some weekends. So the order was set up to where she obviously had them more. He had them every other weekend. I mean, no, he had them every other weekend, but it was some other time that they were also given to him, but he wasn't really able to be with them. They were with his mom the whole time. And then so it's like she came in peace and was like, hey, since you're working all of this time, it really doesn't make any sense for, the kids to be with you scheduled on this particular time, on this particular day, on the Saturdays when you got to work the weekend. That doesn't make sense. We might as well just reduce it down or just do it like this. And he was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because my mom is older and, and the kids are, they're teenager and preteen. And so, yeah, it would make sense that they just stay with their mom versus me overworking my almost 70-year-old mom because he was in his 40s. So he was just doing what made sense. She went back down there after he bent on the schedule, and after they did that for a while, she went back down there and tried to get even more child support. Now he had 4 girls, so they was already taking half of his check. He was working 60 hours in steel toe boots to get half of his income. She went down there and tried to get even more after he just nicely said, yeah, that would be easier on my mom. It'd be better for the girls. It'd be better for you. It'd be better for everybody. And then she's just like, well, my lawyer said that I'm entitled to more because of and he's like, who gives up? And he used to be at work about to cry. Like I almost saw a grown man crying.
They cry all the time.
Man, but anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you said that, it triggered me because I started thinking about the guy. He's one of my best friends at the job. Great guy. Absolutely great guy. Things didn't work out between him and his wife. She finessed him to get even more after she was already getting half of his money. And so, all right. Anyway.
Absolutely. No. You're absolutely right. And this is what we were talking about before about the system and how the system is set up to be advantageous to women. So it's really not like just some random gun and whoever gets it is the winner. No, this gun is going to be pointed at men the vast majority of the time. Shout out to Wonderful Watson, a CPA. I just had one on my channel. These brothers are powerful, and they talk about financial literacy. Jesus, I mean, these brothers know how to handle money, and most Americans don't. So shout out to all the CPAs. Shout out to Wonderful Watson. But what he's saying is, we need to understand the implications of paying child support. If you pay $1,000 a month in child support, you're really not paying $1,000. I mean, because it took you like $1,400 to earn that $1,000.
Exactly.
Because the $1,000 that you're paying is after tax money, right? And then she receives that, and it's not like she has to pay taxes on that. And that also affects when you go to buy a house. When you buy a house as a man and you're paying $1,000 a month as child support, well, you're showing that as a debt. So that, you're going to get hit by the lenders like, oh, you got this $1,000 child support debt, whereas the mother can show it as income, and that can make it easier for her to get a house, whereas it makes it much harder for you to get that same house, which wouldn't necessarily be the case if, like you said, it was just a 50-50 type of thing and there was no child support involved, and you paid for the kids when they were with you and she paid for the kids when they were with them. But they don't want that because the system is not set up to be favorable for a 50-50 type of custody arrangement. The system is set up to be favorable, where it's this 80-20 type of BS where, like you said, the kids live with her, and then you get to see the kids from Friday to Sunday from 6 to 6, and maybe you get a Wednesday dinner. So shout out to Wonderful Watson, because he's exactly right. It's the system that's the problem.
Yeah, appreciate you. Wonderful. Appreciate your wonderful Watson. CPA Red Things and Blues in the building says donation. Love to get. That's what he says. Love to get to interview the lead attorney. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Red Sings Blues does good interviews over there on his channel. Shout out to Red Sings Blues. We got Leo Anthony in the building. Says shout out to Bernard and the guests for dropping great information today on marriage and divorce. Appreciate you, Leo. Mike and Vince Perkins says, how do you deal with breach of custody agreement? Thanks for the show, fellas. We're gonna get into that, but I cut you off because I got triggered. We were talking about how women are more cutthroat when they got to lock horns in that courtroom versus men trying to be fair and trying to do what makes sense and being nice. And women aren't thinking about the greater group or the best interest of the kids. She could know full well it's good for the kids to be with the dad half the time. She don't care. She's in it to win it. So you were speaking on that before I cut you off.
Absolutely. I see all the time in guys want to, here's what guys want to do. Let's say there's a scale of 0 to 100, right? Where 0 is just you're rolling over and you're accepting anything. And 100 is you're fighting to the death, right? And what guys want to do is guys want to start at 0 and they only want to go up as much as necessary, right? Mm-hmm. They only want to go up as much as, if they can get away at just going 40%, then they'll do 40. If they can get away with only going 30%, then they'll try to go 30%, and they get screwed over. They get screwed over so much of the time. It's way better to start at 100. It's on. It is a war. And then if you see it's not necessary, then just dial it back. We're do it the opposite way, right? You should always start out super aggressive, because you can always dial it back at the end. You can kind of say you're going to start out thinking that we are going toe to toe, and I'm not giving you an inch, not 1 inch, but I'm also going to kind of be like a mirror, right? I'm going to see if your energy is down, then I'm going to bring my energy down. And if you want to resolve this peacefully, then fine, let's resolve it peacefully, because I'm not trying to make any type of conflict that shouldn't exist. But when men get screwed is their woman goes 100 for 3 months and they're going 20%, and now they're in a hole that they can't get out of. Right? You have to be cut throat. Just like you said, that's the word that you use, and it's stuck in my mind because it's so true. I just had this consult yesterday where this gentleman was not cutthroat, and now he's in a humongous hole. And sometimes I don't know. I don't even want to go down that road. But yes, men should start off as aggressive. You know, I'll never forget, in last year when all this stuff was going on, I was on YouTube a lot. And I got sucked down this YouTube rabbit hole of looking at all these insurgent videos where our military was like bombing the insurgents, and they have it's on YouTube. It's not even like stricken or anything like that. And it shows the infrared of our AC-130s and our, Apache helicopters. And they're just, these people are just running through the cornfields at night, and you're seeing this infrared vision, and they're just blowing them up. But here's the thing that shocked me about our military. And it was amazing to me. I didn't know, I've never been in the military. I'm too much of a wuss to do that. But this is what shocked me. You would have a man in the middle of the night, and you see him through the infrared, and it's just this guy, and he's running, right? And the Apache helicopter will shoot him with like these 50 millimeter cannons, right? So they shoot him, and he's dead. Then what they'll do is they'll circle back around, and if they see any piece that's not just obliterated, if they see like a chest or like a leg, they will put a missile. They will shoot like a $30,000 missile to a man that's already dead, right? Well, why? Because they do not want to leave any chance. They are not playing around with these people. I mean, anybody who's listening, you can go on YouTube. I was shocked because on the one hand, it seems like a terrible waste of taxpayer money to spend, to waste all of these, hundreds of thousands of dollars of missiles. And you're doing this for every single person, right? So it's millions. But it's very easy for me to say, hey, you shouldn't be using all these missiles when I'm over here in Atlanta and they're over there, right? They really need to make sure that these people are gone. They're obliterated. It's not a game. And when men go into these processes, what they're not seeing sometimes is that they're fighting for their own lives. Once you start talking about, you're behind the hole for child support, and now it's got interest on the arrearages. So now you're really in the hole. And now they're talking about suspending your license. So now how are you going to get to work? And they're garnishing your wages, and they're freezing your bank accounts. It's, you are fighting for your life, but then guys want to go around and they just want to go in there and half step, right? And the women are not half stepping. So I totally agree with you. Guys should go in, and most guys don't. Most guys because most guys are thinking logically. They're like, hey, well, this makes sense if we do this, and this makes sense if we do that. So why don't we just do this? Whereas the woman comes in bombing, right? She's bombing. And now the guy's on the back foot, and sometimes he's in the hole too much. So guys should be the other way. Guys should be like our military and come in bombing. And then if they see if the baby's mother is like, hey, what's going on? I thought we were chill. Okay, just bring it down. And now we're chill. But no one's going to save you guys. The system is not set up for it to be a fair shake. The system is not set up to where you can allow yourself to be in the hole, but then you can come out of it. There are certain games where if you're in the hole, you're done for. If it's like football. You can take football. Let's say John Madden, right, on an NFL. Let's say on a video game where you can get down 40 points, but then maybe the system tries to help you out a little bit, and now you're making catches that you wouldn't have made. It kind of helps you kind of equal the playing field. In real football, that's not the case. In real football, if you get down 40 points, you're done, right? Yeah. And that's how it is in this courtroom. It's not like anybody's going to help you catch up. Once you get down to a certain point, it's a wrap. And so you should absolutely go in there super. It sounds bad to go in there and say super aggressive, because number one, it costs money to be aggressive, right? But you should not go in there playing around. You should not go in there just saying, hey, we want to make it as smooth as possible if the other person doesn't have that same energy, if the child's mother. And the second you see where you say, hey, what about 50-50? And she's like, no, I'm not doing 50. It's on. It's on, right? Go in there, get your attorney, start gathering your evidence. It's on, because you're thinking, oh, well, she'll come around in a few months. And in a few months, you've already lost the custody of your kids, right? So you gotta go in there hardcore from the jump, or at least with that mentality. That's so important. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that word cutthroat, because I just had that consultation yesterday and it triggered in my mind. That was his whole problem. He tried to play nice, and you cannot play nice when you go into a courtroom. A courtroom is set up to be an adversarial system. Right? It's set up where there's a plaintiff and a defendant. It's set up for two people to fight. It's just like you going into the Roman Colosseum and they open the gates on your side and they open the gates from the other side, and the other person comes in with a sword, and you come in and you throw your sword in the ground, and you're like, hey, let's talk. It's the Colosseum. There's no talking.
Right.
But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
I love that. I love it. That is exactly right. That's exactly right. So you need to step into that courtroom knowing that it's not a game. You're stepping into the Coliseum. And if you go in there and you're like, oh, I want to be nice, there's no being nice in the Coliseum. It's real. And that's how courtroom, 5B is on Monday morning. It's a real thing. And so guys definitely need to be more cutthroat from the very beginning. You'll see a lot more women who are like, hey, man, the law gives me this and this and this, and I'm taking it all. And guys are like, oh, well, let's be reasonable about it. And now they're done, right? No one who was a champion in the Coliseum said, let's be reasonable about it.
Woo. Shout out to Mike and Vince Perkins. He got a question on the table for you. How do you deal with breach of custody agreement? Thanks for the show, fellas. So
and this is a great question too, and it kind of harkens back to what you were saying about how what did you say? You were like, well, it's a given that you should fight for 50-50, when really, it's a lot more complicated than that. And this is the same thing. any type of breach of a court order, you can always file a modification. Shout out to Gail, by the way. I don't want to break up my answer, but shout out to Gail. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's one of your moderators. I think she moderates for O'Shea as well, if I'm not mistaken.
She's a professional moderator. Like, she's a YouTube moderator. Like, she moderates all of YouTube. She's so good.
I was debating on giving her a wrench because I see her moderating for other people.
She should have been had that wrench. What are you talking about?
I mean, I like, hey, with these women in this space, I gotta observe them for a while before.
Listen. And Gail has heard me say some things that are. Gail has heard me say some things that I guess my last video, not the one I did with JT, but I did another video talking about J-Lo, and I got so much heat. I got so many emails from that because I was talking about how I said that if it comes between a man choosing a 30-year-old or a man choosing a 51-year-old who's starting menopause, the man should choose a 30-year-old. Oh my God, the women went insane. They went insane. They could not believe that I said that a man should not choose a woman who's starting menopause over a woman who's 30 years old. I got so many emails out of that, and Gail still stuck with me. So shout out to Gail, man. She's awesome.
Women will lose their wrench on this channel for things I catch them doing on other people's channels. So if I give a woman a wrench, I'm watching them like a hawk, making sure they ain't doing nothing.
Gail is awesome. She was my only moderator. I was gonna have her as my only moderator, but then somebody, I'm really new to this YouTube stuff, especially these live streams. Someone told me that wasn't fair, that was too much work for Gail. So then
no, that's true. You do got to have, when your channel, especially with your channel growing the way it's growing. Yeah, you definitely got to have more. Let's not forget the question that was put on the table by I can't find it. He was talking about the breach of contract.
Oh, I remember. Okay, yeah. This is important. Thank you. So here's the thing. Whenever there's a breach of any court order, when there's a violation of any court order, you can file a motion for contempt. And a motion for contempt, or a petition for contempt, or a citation for contempt, whatever they call it in your jurisdiction, it's just saying, hey, this person is not following the court order, right? Now, sometimes judges will not take these violations very seriously. And it could be, let's say that she didn't show up for visitation one day, and you go and you spend $3,000 on an attorney to tell the court that, hey, she didn't show up for visitation. You lost your visitation. It could be that you pay this attorney $3,000 and you go to court, 7 months later, but now you've been getting your visitation, right? And the judge says, well, listen, this was 7 months ago. Why are we here? And so you paid that $3,000 and nothing happened. So you really need to be judicious in what you are going to tell the court, because it costs money. And so it depends on what the violation is. It depends on what the breach of the court order is. Breach is necessarily the wrong word, but what's the non-compliance? What are they doing? The simple answer to the question is, what do you do when somebody's violating a court order? You file a petition for contempt, a citation for contempt, motion for contempt. That's the answer. But you have to know that as a man, a woman is going to get a slap on the wrist for a lot of violations if the judge does not feel that the violation is important. And the issue is that it would have taken you $3,000 in 7 months to get into court, and nothing happened. So you basically lost that money in that time.
Shout out to Snuggles real quick.
Hi, I'm Snuggles.
Snuggles hit me with so many $5 super chats. She got her own little special greeting.
I was gonna ask that. I was gonna say, did you do that for her? That's awesome.
Yeah. No, she before I even knew she was a woman, I thought it was a guy at first. I was like, why the hell is your name Snuggles? But then I found out later it was a woman.
I did too.
But she's the $5 super chat champion of the world. So she got her own little special greeting. She says, are you eventually going to open up the panel so the attorney can give some guidance? Yes, I'm going to open it up for people to come up one at a time to ask questions to the lead attorney. Absolutely going to be doing that. Shout out to Buck Dodgers in the building. Shout out to you. I worked as a QA analyst for, what is that? Mises in the state of Michigan. I could tell you, child support is designed to destroy men and separate men from their money. I
Facts.
felt like a junior engineer working. That's a good one. So I felt like a junior engineer working on the Death Star. That's actually funny. That's a good one.
Facts. It's so true.
That's why I love Rogue One, that they actually got down to the bottom of that design flaw in the in the Death Star that everybody used to criticize Star Wars for. They got down to the bottom of it and made that make sense. Shout out to Rogue One. They saved Star Wars with that movie for me. But anyway, Sir Tice in the building says, "Oh wow, this is a great get, Bernie. Shout out to the lead attorney. This bro has a great channel. Folks need to support and salute." Now you sent an odd denomination. I don't have an exact super chat greeting for that one, but I do got one for $8, and that was close to $8. So
That'll be $8.
shout out to you, Sir Tice, for coming with 7. I gotta find one for $7. Y'all gonna make me find one for every single amount.
Shout out to Sir Tice. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Deacon Dave in the building. Appreciate you, Deacon Dave, with the $2 super.
These last $2, I'm not gonna lose.
Shout out to Deacon Dave. He says you got to wrangle the banshee, but no, I don't. We don't wrangle the banshees over here. We do not wrangle the banshees over here. W. Alfonso, he says you missed my last super chat, but are you planning to keep this one up? Oh, absolutely. This has been a clean show so far, other than I think Denzel Washington cussing that one clip that I played. But other than that, I don't think it's been any curse words. So I definitely will be leaving this one up. So shout out to you. Appreciate you coming through with the super. One thing that I want to get into.
Hey, let me just jump in right quick and say
shout
out to W. Alfonso too, man, because he's always coming through my live streams and supporting me too and supporting the channel. So shout out to W. Alfonso. Big shout out.
Captain Sicko is saying that I missed his super chat. So I'm going to dig that up. But as I'm pulling that up, I do want to point out that there are a lot of things that you say, that you talk about, where you have ultimately, proven the manosphere right on a lot of things that we say. And I mean a lot of things that we say. You have confirmed it, being down in the trenches 20 years, divorce attorney. You proved a lot of things that we've been saying correct. But one thing that you talked about is those prenuptial agreements. And I got it in the thumbnail because it's a common phrase around here that prenups are toilet paper. And you had a different take on that. So we definitely going to get into that one. And I'm going to open it up after that so people can come up with questions. But
who made that thumbnail, by the way? Do you have an editor or
somebody? I'm not that good. I'll send them to you if you want to hire them to have them do some thumbnails for you. But because I'm not that good. Yeah, my thumbnail, when you see one of my thumbnails look like garbage, then you know I did it. If it looked that good, that's my editor. He does good work. So I'll send you his I'll give you his information after the show, so if you want to get him. Captain Sicko, okay, now I see your super chat. I can't highlight it, but I see it. He says, has the lead attorney ever encountered a divorce where the wife is from another country, like women on K1? I don't know. See, I don't know. I don't speak passport, but I think K1.
Yeah, you might be talking about a K1 visa.
Yeah, K1. Yeah. Okay, yeah. He says, are men in better situation if she only has green card? Okay, go ahead.
No, you're fine. No, a divorce is a divorce, and it's not going to matter where the person is from. It's not going to matter the immigration status. I have done numerous divorces with people who are not in the country legally. In fact, there are a large number. There are millions of people in the United States that are not here legally, and they can get divorced. They can get child support. They can get alimony like anybody else. And in fact, you really have, I don't want to get too down into the trenches with this, But you have to worry about people who are legal permanent residents, because what you will usually have to sign is an affidavit of support. And when you sign that affidavit of support, it's kind of like alimony. It's kind of like you are telling the federal government that you will support this person until they either become a citizen or they can get on their feet, and that can last for years. And so it's more dangerous to marry or to divorce a legal permanent resident when you've signed that affidavit of support than if you were to have married a citizen. Because with a citizen, you don't necessarily have to provide that support. You don't necessarily have to pay alimony. And again, the affidavit of support is not alimony, but you will have to support this person at least to a base level if they are not working. And that's federal. So there's no way to get out of that. That's a great question, whoever asked it.
Yeah, that was Captain Sick on. W. Alfonso said I missed his last super chat, but he just said two of his favorite YouTubers are together right now. So salute and shout out to you. We appreciate your support. And all right, and we got one more coming down here. Oh wait, no, I already shouted you out, Captain Sicko. Already found your last super chat. So oh, real quick before we get into the prenup thing, this is one thing that I did want to ask you, because how do I set this one up? Judges are men, so you would think that judges would have more understanding or be more sympathetic towards men, but in my experience, the judge, I don't want to say he was just an idiot. However, he seemed to go with whatever the advice was or recommendation from, I guess it was called the arbitrator or the whatever she came up, because I went through the process twice. One time the woman was extremely biased and I lost, and he just took her recommendation. The second time, maybe she was biased, maybe she wasn't, but I came in there with so much hard evidence that she had no choice but to go with me. I mean, she would have deserved to lose her job if she didn't give me what I was requesting. I went in there with so much evidence. A lot of people know the story. Every day that they were with me when they weren't supposed to be with the ex-wife, I was taking a picture of them with a date camera with the month, date, time, and year. If they're spending, I took pictures of them while they sleep overnight with a date camera to prove that they're there, wrote everything down on the calendar, put it all in a spreadsheet. So wow. I walked in there with percentages showing that they were with me 70% of the time. They were only supposed to be with me probably barely 20% of the time, but I was in there with a spreadsheet to show they were with me 70% of the time, and I had more than 51% of the overnights. Had it broken down week by week, month by month. Irrefutable evidence. I had to walk in with an orgy of evidence just to get 50-50. But she just had to show up with a vagina and a bunch of lies. But anyway, all right. So here's the deal. So
I mean, what you said is
I be venting sometimes. You just gotta let me go.
No, but guys need to hear this. Guys need to hear this. Number one, just two things. First of all, like very few men go to the links that you did to prove your case. Very few men.
Well, I lost twice, and then I said, okay, game on. So I had to lose a lot of money, a lot of time, and then before I finally got to, like you said, that 100. I came in at 100 after I lost it initially during the divorce proceedings. Then I came back like 5 months later, and they said, oh, it was too soon. You could have just been keeping them during this time just to try to avoid child support in the future. So I was like, okay, game on. I spent 2 years gathering all that evidence that I was talking about and went in there and dropped it on the table on them. And then it was nothing they could do after that. But go ahead. No,
I mean, it's exactly right. And this is gosh, I mean, what you're saying is just so poignant. It's so exact. It's so exact. And this really is what I'm trying to avoid. Like, you found out how the system was after the second time, and then the third time you came in and dropped that bomb on them, right? Mm-hmm. And so what my channel is designed to do is say, hey, don't go through those first two times. The only reason that you went through those first 2 times is because you didn't know kind of how it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
You thought that people were going to be reasonable. You thought that people were going to be logical. You thought that people were going to be fair, and it's just not true. It's just not true. The third time you came in and you dropped that, they dropped a bomb on them, and it worked. Now, so that's the first thing. And the second thing, which is so disappointing, is that you have to drop a bomb on them just to get 50-50.
Yeah.
And then they want to stick on a little $10 a month child support just to kind of stick. And it's like, you can't, how do you win? If a mother would have come in with the evidence that you had, if it had been the opposite way, you might be some supervised visitation.
I've been saying that for years. That literally, I would be lucky to get a 1 day out of the month supervised visitation had she came with all the stuff that I came with. And I don't even discuss the dirty details. I just talk about on the channel. I just talk about the time that they were with me versus when they were supposed to be with her. I don't talk about all the other stuff. It was
absolutely.
But
you're absolutely right. Listen, I've seen it for 2 decades. I'm telling you, you're absolutely right.
Well, we got a question on the table from Mr. Negative, the Negative Man. So I do want you to answer that one, even though that I don't know if that's your. I mean, when I look at lawyers and people fighting in the system, and then there's another group of people that fight outside of it to try to change the law. So I don't know if that may not be your expertise, but we'll go down that route. But real quick, I do want you to answer. What's the deal with judges who are men who most of the decisions that they make in these situations, they're just taking the advice or the recommendation from, in many cases, biased women? Like, what's the deal with that part of it?
All right, there are 2 issues there. There's 2 issues there. One issue is, and maybe you're not saying this, but it's an issue. One issue is, how can male judges screw men, right? If they're men themselves. And then the other issue is, how is it that a judge basically gives over his whole duties to someone else who writes a report, and then the person that writes the report, the judge gets the report and basically just co-signs it? Yeah. Now, the easier question is that question. The second question, which was what you were asking, how is it that a judge accepts a woman's report and just basically co-signs it, rubber stamps it? That happens all the time. Now, in fairness to the judge, some of these reports are made by guardian ad litems, and these guardian ad litems are basically attorneys for the kids. And the judge, again, it's an adversarial system. You show up, and your ex shows up, and you say your side of the story. The ex says her side of the story, and the judge is like, I don't know any of these people. I'm just showing up. It's Tuesday. Like, I don't know what the facts are. I don't know who's telling the truth, who's lying. So what the judge will do is assign a guardian ad litem. And what will the guardian do? The guardian, who is an attorney, the guardian will go and they'll go to your home and they'll talk to you and they'll look around, see if you got any guns, see if you got any pit bulls, see if your house is safe, see what your interactions are with your children. And then the guardian ad litem will go to the mother and do the same thing, supposedly. And then the guardian ad litem will write a 15-page report, 20-page report. So now the judge feels like there's been an investigation done. Because again, on Tuesday morning, the judge doesn't know what the deal is. Who's lying? The judge doesn't know if you're lying, and the judge doesn't know if the woman's lying. In fact, to be honest, the judge feels like both of y'all are lying. The judge feels like he can't, because judges see lies. People lie in court every day. So the judge
do they have the guardian? I forgot what you called it. The guardian and what is it?
Ad litem. Yeah, you can just say guardian.
Do they? That didn't happen in my case. I thought it would. I was prepared for it. I was like, come on, please. But that didn't happen with mine. So does that happen with? I mean, is it different state by state whether or not they send people to the house?
No, well, usually you have to request a guardian ad litem because they're attorneys, so they're expensive. A judge normally isn't going to assign a guardian ad litem if no one requests it. There are some programs where guardian ad litems work pro bono, they work for free, but usually someone has to ask for it. So I thought that's kind of what happened in your case. I don't really know who was the person in your case that was giving the recommendation, or what was that about?
I believe they were called an arbitrator. Basically, we had to go down. I sat right here, ex-wife sat right there, the person sat in front of us, and there were 9 different factors in the decision-making process where she had to decide, you know, which one was better for the overall well-being and health of the children. Check one for the dad, one for the mom. Which one was financially blah 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 blah. Check one here or one there. Which one was it was even some religious language in it. Like if if the kids were raised Christian or going to the Catholic church, but the dad became an atheist, are they going to be continuing if they send them over there, they with the atheist dad versus the Catholic mom,
Right.
is that going to be a problem? They take 9 different things into consideration, and then from those 9 different things and the conversation, anything said there, she would basically write up would amount to a 10-page, 15-page report. So it was almost like what you're saying, and she would talk to the kids too. She would bring the kids in and talk to the kids. So it was almost like what you're saying, just without coming to the house.
Gotcha.
Basically, we came to her and she did essentially the same thing, and we brought the kids to her and they did the same thing. So
Gotcha.
I think we're talking about the same thing. They just maybe do it differently from place to place, whether it's at the home or in the office.
Perfect. Yeah. And so you're exactly right. Maybe in your state they don't go to the houses, and that's fine.
Right.
What they're basically doing is an investigation, right? And so now when the judge looks at you and thinks, okay, he's lying, and then the judge looks at the mom and the judge says, okay, I know she's lying. How do I get the truth? Well, there's a 15-page report, right? That's supposed to be the truth, because there are 3 truths, right? There's your truth, there's the mother's truth, and then there's the paper that's supposed to be the real truth.
But that paper was written by somebody with a vagina.
It's true. I had a guardian ad litem look me in the face a few years ago. She looked me in the face and she said that she just felt like mothers were better than fathers. An attorney, a guardian ad litem, just told me off the rip, hey, I think so. How did her report look? Like, I already knew how it looked before she sat down to type it. And so yes, you are absolutely dealing with biases, but you're also, and here's the thing, and I want to be fair, because when you say, Bernard, that the report was written by a woman, that's true. That's true. But the report was not rubber stamped by a woman. Right? The person that rubber stamped that report, the person that empowered that report, the person that enacted that report was a man. Right? So it's not like you can just say, oh, a woman drafted it, because it wasn't the woman who had the final say.
Right.
It was the man who had the final say. And you see this a lot in the manosphere and the red pill community about guys pushing so hard against women. There are a lot of male judges. Right, 2021. It looks a little different, but in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, where men were getting screwed over. You go back to 1992. How many female judges were there? Very few. Right? Who are the people that are really screwing men over in these divorce courts? They're men, right?
Yeah.
Look, it's 2021, but it's not like the divorce laws were established yesterday. Divorce laws have been in the books for years. Go back to 1985 and try to find a picture of your state legislature and look how many of those were women. They're all men. Yeah. So I want to push back. I get it about pound women into the ground and this and that. But when you say, hey, the report was drafted by a woman, hey, who empowered the report? Who accepted the report?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. It's the judge. So yeah, I guess why is it that judges put it like my interpretation? You probably got a different interpretation of it. The judge, I don't know if I want to call him lazy, but it seems as if I'll give him the excuse of, with all that he has on his plate, his job is easier if he just takes the recommendation.
100%.
That was my observation. I was like, my second time in there, I was like, he's just taking the easy way out, because I can tell by how he was talking to me and how he was even talking to my lawyer at one point. I could tell that he knew that it was more. He he knew that if we scratch beneath the surface, that this would be a long, drawn out trial if we really scratch beneath the surface. But he wanted to go right with the he wanted to go with the recommendation.
With the
and
report.
even my lawyer, I don't even want to get into. I had to fire him and get another lawyer.
Ugh.
He wanted to go with it too because coming out of the okay, I don't want to get too personal, but I was at the time. Well, put it like this: by the time I got to the third lawyer, I was able to just put all the money right on the table up front. She was squared away. With this lawyer, I was on some pay as I go type stuff, and with between child support and paying lawyers and everything else, and I lost a job. I was on unemployment periodically, and it was hard for me to pay him. And so he was sitting there worrying about getting paid. So that's why he turned on me too. So
yeah,
it was his lawyer, my ex-wife, my lawyer, and the judge trying to just let's just get this shit signed and get out of here. That's true. Anyway, yeah,
it's true. There was that Denzel. You had a clip of Denzel. There was that Denzel made a movie in Mexico. I think it was called something about Man on Fire. I think that's what it was. And he was a bodyguard, but he was a drunk. And so they wanted to hire. This family came up to hire him, and they were like, "Oh, well, this is what you need to do, and you need to do this and do that." And Denzel was there. He was like, "Yeah, well, the protection is going to be on par with the pay, right?" And a lot of attorneys treat it like that too. Hey, okay, you're going to get what you pay for, but you're not going to get more. And if you want to string this out and payment plans and find out, okay, but I'm going to be right where the payment is. Don't say that you're going to pay me in October and then you want me to do all of October's work. No. We're in April and I'm doing April's work, and then we'll see about May. Yeah. And then you're behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. So I did have everything working against me. I mean, the recommendation was horrible. Those 9 points, I think I was only leading in one. It was like 1-8. And so the lawyer was saying, I can't overturn a 1-8. And then there was the money factor too. He didn't say that, but I could tell. But anyway, so yeah, it's a whole situation where you got the bias of the arbitrator, the situation with your lawyer, depending whether or not you dropped all of the money on the table. Then there's the judge who's being lazy, who just wants to just sign it, and then there's less work. Then her lawyer and her in the courtroom trying to make you look like a Batman villain. So it's so much stuff going on. I gotta
let me jump in right quick. This is just important, just to wrap it up about the arbitrator. A lot of people think that they're going to go and talk to the arbitrator, and then they're going to go in front of the judge and go to trial, right? Not knowing that the arbitrator is the trial. That's the fight right there. You need to go in guns blazing with the arbitrator. You need to go in there guns blazing with the guardian, because that report is going to be so powerful. It's going to be basically a rubber stamp. So a lot of people are like, okay, well, let's get through with the arbitrator, and then we'll go talk to the judge. That's backwards. The meat and potatoes is with the arbitrator. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. I was foolishly looking at it like that at first, and that even though I went in and I felt like I said everything that needed to be said, but still I didn't understand that's where the fight is at right there. That's where you have to win. You have to win that battle with a subjective battle with the arbitrator. You have to win that battle. You win that battle, you're at least in the driver's seat. So that much is true. That's because it was some stuff that look, if I could do it over, I know now, but yeah, you got to come in all guns blazing with the arbitrator. Real quick, he's asking a question, and this may not be your expertise, but he's asking, how do we get these laws changed?
Listen, just like any law, you contact these lobbyists, you contact your politicians, you contact your state representatives. You send them an email, you call them, you write them, maybe you go down there. These child support laws, or these alimony laws, these marriage laws and divorce laws, they're just laws, right? So the same way you would challenge or try to overturn any law, that's the way you overturn and modify these child support laws with with lobbying and grassroots efforts.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out to Rod C in the building. Shout out to Zero. He says, what is the exact jurisdiction of the family? Oh, wait, hold on. Wait. See, I skipped the question. He was asking about something about some laws in Texas. Hold on. The previous person that was up, Rod C. I read Mr. Negative Man's comment, but dropped the bomb for the $20 super chat for somebody else. Rod C says, should you put yourself on child support? Yeah, she says, should you put yourself on child support? I'm in Texas.
Okay, well, Texas handles their child support a little bit differently. Again, I think Texas is one of the states that doesn't even look at the mother's income, only looks at the father's income, right? But I don't want to start giving legal advice. None of this, guys, is legal advice. It's just information, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not versed on all of the laws in all the states in the nation. I will say this though, there are many times when it is better not to put yourself on child support, but it's going to depend on your particular laws. There are some states that say, listen, let's say you got an 8-year-old and you were never on child support. If the mother decides to put you on child support when the child is 8 years old, then all the mother can get is from 8 years old going forward, 8, 9, 10. She doesn't get any child support when the child was 1, 2, 3. She misses out on all of that. So if you would have put yourself on child support when the child was 1 and the mother would have waited until the child was 8, you just cost yourself 7 years of child support. And mothers wait all the time. Mothers wait all the time. Most mothers do not go down to child support, right after the birth. They just don't do it. Mothers wait for years all the time. Now, there are some states where, let's say the child is 8 and the state will say, okay, the mother can get 2 years of back child support, 2 years. Well, that means that she could get child support from the time that the child was 6 going forward. But if you had put yourself on child support in the beginning, then you just cost yourself 6 years of child support, right? And there are some states that say, you get all of it. So it really depends on your state. You would need to talk to, and this goes to everybody. I'm not just talking about to the person in Texas or anything. You really need to talk to to an attorney in your city to figure out what are the retroactive child support laws, if any. If any. And that's a great question. But most women wait to put a man on child support, even as for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Some women will wait 10 years. And it could be because y'all's relationship is good and this and that.
Yeah, that's what I assume. They probably still together in that first year or two. Then after they break up, they ain't getting back together. Then it's like, okay, I'm gonna.
Well, a lot of times, a mother will just move away. She'll get a job in California and she'll just move.
Yeah.
And she has her kid and she's like, listen, you weren't really a great person. You weren't really a great father. So I'm going to take my child and move. And they move and you don't hear anything from them. And that can go on for years. Whereas if you would have put yourself on child support from day one, right, then you're paying from day one.
Yeah.
So that's the issue with that.
All right. Shout out to Zero in the building. He says, what is the exact jurisdiction of the family court? I'm not trolling. There's no clarity even in statutes, and Title IX doesn't really define it, since civil and criminal due process is tossed out the window.
Yeah, and again, this can be like state. Can you put that back up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
No
shoot. Hold on. Hopefully I didn't lose it. No, here it goes.
Okay, and again, he's asking for the exact jurisdiction. And again, this can be kind of state by state, depending on what the state's constitution is. He's asking for the statutes and Title IV. Now, Title IV is federal, but it can be interpreted by the states. So it's going to be difficult for me to kind of tell, I'm not even sure what state this person is in. But this is more of like a sovereign citizen type of question. I talked about sovereign citizens with the pocket watcher, JT, right? And there are a lot of people who believe that you are not really a citizen of the union. I don't want to start saying what sovereign citizens say because I don't know what their arguments are, but it kind of seems to me to say that they don't have any jurisdiction over a person, right? And so we're getting really esoteric. But if you want to know the particular statutes in a particular state, you would need to look at the statutes in those states.
Okay, and real quick, we about to get into the whole prenup thing really quick. Number 16 in the building, he says, this just strengthens my resolve not to get married in the U.S., too corrupt and too prejudiced to take a part of. Shout out to number 6. And let's see. We got Sir Tice Bernie and those damn Roman numerals. Yeah, I told y'all I had chicken pox the whole week that we learned Roman numerals. I don't know them. I don't know them past 3. Anyway, shout out to Sir Tice.
These last $2, I'm not gonna lose.
All right. Prenups are prenuptial agreements toilet paper? That's the question that's on the thumbnail. That is considered dogma in the a highly held truth in the manosphere that prenups are toilet paper. That's the question on the table. Go ahead.
I don't even know. Maybe you can tell me. I don't even know where this came from. A prenup is a contract. I don't know where it came about that contracts are toilet paper.
Because we hear about them. We hear about them getting thrown out all the time.
Okay,
but throw it out for any reason.
Contracts get invalidated all the time, but there's a reason. That's what you don't hear. You always hear that that prenups get thrown out, but you never go one step further. You never go one step further. Just ask why. Why was it thrown out? You know, Dr. Dre he's in a divorce case right now, and the wife is trying to say, well, the prenup that they have should get thrown out because he tore it up. Right now, let's assume that that's a reason, let's assume that that's a reason to get it thrown out. What you will hear in the media is that Dr. Dre had a prenup, it got thrown out, and now he has to pay, half $1 billion. And the men in the manosphere are going to be like, oh, well, why did prenups are toilet paper? Dr. Dre's prenup got thrown out. Why did it get thrown out? Because he tore it up. He tore it up. Like, come on, guys. Like, we got to be able to think about this and rationalize it. Now, I don't think that's going to hold up.
By tore it up, you mean the actual prenup that existed that they both signed? He literally got it and tore it up. So he showed up to the courtroom, and the judge, I think you described it like this. You said the judge was going to say, hey, do you have a contract agreement? And they have to be able to pull out a contract agreement and hand it to the judge. He wasn't able to hand it to the judge because he didn't have it. Is that accurate?
I'm not sure the particulars of his case. I know that the wife's argument is that he tore it up. Now, in some states, you have to file it with the court, or you have to record it, and in some states you don't. But no prenup says that this. Here's what prenups say generally. They say this prenup is final and it's going to be the agreement, and the only way it can be modified or the only way it can be terminated is in writing. In writing. Okay. Now, what did Dr. Dre do supposedly years later? He tore it up. But you can tear it up because the prenup does not say that the prenup is going to be invalidated if it's in writing or torn up. It just says that the prenup is going to be invalidated if the parties agree in writing. So he could have torn it up. He could have flushed it down the toilet and it would still be valid because that's the terms of it. It's still going to be valid no matter what its condition, no matter whether it's torn up, no matter where it's burned. You need a new writing. You need a new agreement to invalidate the old agreement. And so that's the thing. Guys we don't go that extra step. Sometimes we can be so lazy and just say, oh, well, it was thrown out and not ask why. Maybe it was thrown out because the husband presented the prenup at the altar. You need to give these women time to process the agreement, to read it, to understand it. Maybe it was thrown out because you had a team of 6 lawyers and she didn't have one lawyer, and she's going to come back and say that she didn't understand it, right? They've been thrown out because of that. So you guys, there are ways to do a prenup where it's going to hold up, but you can't be silly about it. And so many guys are silly, and their prenup gets thrown out. And then you have this urban legend now in the whole community saying that prenups don't work when it's the best one-shot protection that you will ever have in a marriage. It's the absolute best. And so if prenups didn't offer the protection that they do, then if men are going around saying that they don't work, then fine, because even if they did work, it wouldn't be so valuable. the prenup is going to be the most valuable thing that a successful man can have in his entire marriage. And so for the manosphere community to go around and say the number one thing is trash, like we're really doing a huge disservice. And usually it's not the men. You don't really hear, the 24-year-old saying this. You don't hear the 26-year-old saying this. You're hearing the 45-year-olds who are burned and in this red pill rage. This guy, the guy on TikTok who was talking about there's this guy on TikTok who went through a nasty divorce, and he was saying how he lost his sobriety, he lost his job because he started drinking, he lost his manhood because he lost so much. He lost half of his 401k, the equity in the house, the stocks, the mortgage, the brokerage account. He lost everything. And he was supporting for 17 years this lady and supporting her kid who he adopted, and she was cheating on him with the neighbor and her friend. So she's cheating on him and he lost everything. And he came out with all these videos talking about prenups don't work. I have a question for him. Did he have a prenup? No. Like, he's making all these videos about how prenups don't work. He didn't even have a prenup, and he's not an attorney. So I don't understand why all a prenup is, guys, is a contract. And so who better to talk about contracts than an attorney? But there are no, aside from Uncle D, I don't really know of many attorneys in the manosphere community talking about this stuff. And if you do ask an attorney, you will never find an attorney, a family law attorney, who says that prenups don't work. You'll find these people who have lost half of their things. They're the ones saying that they don't work.
All right. So it begins. Zero has entered the chat. All right. Coach Ali's Corner in the building. He says, haven't been on the scene in a while. Shout out to Bernard and the lead attorney. This is a great conversation. Shout out to my man, Coach Ali, with the $10.
I'll be damned. I'll die and go to hell and play blackjack with the devil before I give you $10. That's what I want to know.
Shout out to Coach Ali's Corner. And we got Zero in the building. A lot of people was requesting this. Zero is one of the ones who have, from my perspective, helped to popularize the phrase prenups are toilet paper. He's one of the first ones I actually heard saying it exactly like that. So this should be interesting. So go ahead. I'll pass it to you, Zero. You have the floor. You have the mic.
Right. So the reason I say prenups are toilet paper is because of Duluth model law. I agree. I mean, it's a business contract, just like the marriage contract itself is a business contract. It falls under United States business law. However, a marriage contract is also one of the only contracts, is the only contract under United States business law that is amendable. Like for instance, you look at I hate to use the hip hop example, but you look at all the people that sign record deals and then they're broke because of it. They can't do anything about it. Marriage contracts aren't the same. I mean, a woman can appeal infinitely, infinitely, pretty much, until she pretty much gets what she wants. As far as the prenup in particular, the Duluth model guidelines are followed. The Duluth model is not law. I mean, I understand that it's not law. However, those guidelines are followed, and the problem with those guidelines is that it assumes that the man is always the aggressor by default. By default, the man is the aggressor. By default, the woman is a victim. Therefore, prenups are literally always signed under duress. By default, prenups are signed under duress. So when a woman takes advantage of Duluth model guidelines, she just goes in and says, well, I signed this under duress, void the contract, the prenup is now toilet paper. I do, with the understanding that, yes, it is a business contract and it should be honored. This is the loophole created, and this loophole was created by feminism. So whenever you have something that works, feminism just comes in and says, no, let's see what we can do about this to help you out. So this is the only reason I say that prenups are toilet paper, is because of the Duluth model guidelines. And again, it's not law, but it is what is followed. Just like how when you were talking about family court jurisdictional powers, Yeah, it is federal, and the states do interpret it. The problem with that is that it's not like it's never clear. The states never really clarify the jurisdictional power of the family courts. When you go in there, it's not really due process. You're just you're going into a sentencing hearing. And that's the problem with the whole family court's powers. There's a bunch of other lawyers, not particularly in the Black manosphere. You were like the first one I've seen over here, but over in the manosphere in general, there's a bunch of them, like MGTOW Esquire and a bunch of lawyer, divorce attorneys, business law attorneys, and all the rest of them that talk about this stuff in depth, more in depth. So when I go and research the statutes and the laws of multiple states, it's all the same thing. It's never really clarified. So this is all of this stuff in combination. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, well, go ahead. It's like you was about to wrap up. You put a lot on the table. I want to give him a chance.
So
go ahead.
Basically, all of these things in combination, it becomes like a power imbalance, and then that's what voids these contracts. And that's where I'm at with it, as far as like with the understanding.
Right. Well, when you say a power imbalance, I can totally understand where you're coming from with that. And I agree with that. A power imbalance can absolutely be a detriment to a prenup, which is why I always say that prenups, number one, need to be drafted by attorneys. And each person should have their own attorney, right? So you as a man should have your own attorney, and the wife should have her own attorney, a separate attorney. And those two attorneys should talk to each other and review the prenuptial agreement, which should be drafted months before the wedding, really presented to her months before the wedding. So if you have an attorney and she has an attorney, and both of these attorneys draft the prenup together, and it's drafted 6 months before the wedding, so she's had time to review the prenup. She's had time to ask all the questions that she needs to about the prenup. She's had time to understand the prenup from her own attorney. Then you cannot say, a judge will not say that there's been a power imbalance, because she has legal representation. What you used to see back in the day was, you would have a sophisticated husband. Let's say he's got, $700,000. He's a businessman, and he's got, 4 businesses, and he's super sophisticated, and he marries the 23-year-old chick from Foot Locker, right? And his team of attorneys drafts a 20-page prenup, and it gives it to the 23-year-old. And he's like, sign it. And the 23-year-old's like, well, what's it say? Just, baby, come on, just sign it. And she signs it. The prenup was drafted by his attorneys, and she never got an attorney. And she's 23. She works at Foot Locker. She doesn't know anything about running a business. She makes $9 an hour, whereas her husband, her fiance, is making $700,000 and owns 4 businesses. Well, the judge is going to sit back and say, man, there is a huge power imbalance here. You are a sophisticated player. You're a sophisticated person, and she's not. She's 23. So it wasn't fair. It really wasn't fair. And again, have prenups been thrown out for these types of power imbalances where it looks like almost you're taking advantage of this 23-year-old. That's kind of what it's starting to look like. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's why I only list out 4 things, guys. If you want to draft a solid prenup, you can absolutely do it. It's not hard. It's not like you need a 35 point list, 35 bullet points of how to draft a prenup. It's not. Just get her own attorney, right? But have 2 attorneys drafted, right? Get her own attorney. Have a full disclosure of what's going on. What are your assets? What are her assets, right? Present it to her way before the wedding, right? Way before the wedding. And now that it's drafted by 2 attorneys, let's make it, more or less fair. Let's not be that you have, $1 million, and if you get divorced after 12 years, she gets 30 cents, right? And her attorney isn't going to allow her to sign that anyway, because her attorney has a license and doesn't want to get sued for malpractice. So her attorney is going to do a good job for her. And so there's not going to be that balance and balance. And, in 28, I don't want to get too deep into this, but there's a Uniform Prenuptial Agreement Act, the UPAA, and that's not accepted in every state, but I think it's accepted in like 28 states. And that actually has less requirements than what I'm telling you to do. So what I'm telling you to do really is the gold standard. And if you do this, your prenup will absolutely hold up. It will absolutely hold up.
Zero, you want to respond?
Yeah, I can concede to that. I mean, if you got a couple lawyers on either side, and everything is notarized and stamped, maybe it will hold up. It's just that, again, I'm not going to dispute that. I'm just saying, as far as like the previous examples, I do agree that dudes who had money would go in and say, "Hey, sign this," or we don't get married or whatever, and she has to sign it. The only caveat I have for that is when kids get involved, that's also another reason to just follow Duluth model guidelines. Basically, the excuse will be, well, either I didn't anticipate kids, or we had kids and our situation is significantly different than when we did not have kids. Basically, the Duluth model is just it gives these a validation to invalidate the prenup, and that is a problem. So, but yeah, I'm going to concede to that point. You get lawyers on both sides, and you draft the contract, get it notarized. Hopefully, you get some mediation in there, so that things get ironed out before you even make the vows. But again, I just want people to be aware that basically you don't get blindsided. So you have to know all the information. You have to know about the Duluth model guidelines, because in case you get blindsided and then someone says, well, I followed the rules, I did what I was supposed to do, I got my lawyer, she had a lawyer, we went through all this stuff, and the prenup was signed and stamped and sealed, and I still got wallet raped. It's just you got to have all the information, otherwise this is all for nothing.
How often would you say they throw them out? If, let's just say, it was drawn up relatively fair, but she didn't have her own lawyer look at it, and they review it and they sign it and everything, and then they go through, I guess, 10 years of marriage, and even though she signed it, and let's just say that he's worth $10 million, it's drawn up to where if he has a liquid $10 million, she'll get $1 million. I think most people would say, okay, that's for the most part fair. But she's like, no, I want half. Like, how often, even though she signed it, how often could they use more or less the stuff with Zero's talking about, and a number of other factors, to get that thrown out? Because I do agree that it's airtight and hard to argue out of if you got a lawyer and then she got a separate lawyer, and like you said, her lawyer is going to do his job to make sure that it's fair. But let's just say she don't got a lawyer, but it's still relatively fair on coming from him and his lawyer, but she's just saying, no, screw all that, I want half. How often will it just get thrown out?
Well, see, what you're doing now, you're saying, okay, lead attorney, you've told me how to build a structurally sound house. You told me how to build a house. But what happens if we put a few cracks in the foundation, right? And what if we take out a few bricks from this wall? How sound will the house be?
Right.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how big the cracks in the foundation are, right? Like the more you subtract from it, the more argument that she's going to have. So if you're saying that she didn't have her own attorney and maybe it's not fair, those are cracks. Those are problems. But it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. I'm not trying to avoid your question, but what I'm saying is,
I got you.
To the extent that you do things improperly, there's going to be a higher risk that it's going to be thrown out.
Yeah, everything you brought up is easily exploitable by Duluth model guidelines. The family court will just be like, oh, okay, this is easy. I mean, the second you go in, she's gonna you're gonna be at a disadvantage if you don't follow those. However, again, things change when circumstances change. Again, kids is one of the major factors where a circumstance could change. And again, one of the big problems is, you gotta keep in mind while we're talking about this, is that the family court has power that is above civil and criminal. I mean, they don't even have like for the most part, there isn't even really judges running the shows. Magistrates and guardian ad litems, like they can do whatever they want. and they follow what's called best interest of the child, which was introduced after the version one, the previous one, which was tender years doctrine, got abolished. Like when they removed that because it was unconstitutional, all they did was come back with a new version of it that basically used the it's just legal terminology for the same thing. It just went around it. Like, you call it best interest of the child, and which basically means they're going to side with the woman, 90% of the time. So, I mean, a lot of, you just have to keep in mind this stuff. I mean, you go into family court, you have to understand that the family court does not follow the same rules as civil and criminal courts. That is what it is under Title IV. I don't really know how to express that more simply, but that's just the way that is. So, sorry, I'm getting work alerts because I'm actually.
No, you're fine. And again, we have a question about the Duluth model. Really, first of all, let's take a step back. The Duluth model is not a law. Okay, it's just a guideline, just like any other guideline. And in the vast majority of states, it's not even really considered. So I understand where this brother is coming from, talking about the Duluth model. Now, in the Duluth model, a lot of times men are not given a fair shake because it's based on, domestic abuse and who abusers are and who victims are. And whenever you have a man and a woman and you say, well, who is the victim and who's the abuser, it's gonna, it's generally going to be the man. You'll see this a lot when there is a domestic dispute and there's a mutual combat situation between a man and a woman, and the police get called out. Well, who are the police going to take? Right? They're going to take the guy. And so, this type of model, it can absolutely put the man on his back foot, put the man as the person that's committed the violence. But it's not really a statute, right? And so attorneys, we deal with statutes. Now, there is prejudice to it behind it as well, because a lot of these statutes say that there should be no preference in terms of who gets custody of a child. But you only have to be an attorney for 30 days to know that's BS. The judges are going to interpret this child support, this custody arrangement, this visitation. They're going to interpret it in the way that they want to do it. But we're kind of getting a little far afield here from the prenups, because the prenup is actually a contract, right? It's actually a contract. And so I don't really know. Maybe I'll need to go into more of the white manosphere and look to see if there are attorneys actually who are saying that prenups don't work. I've never heard an attorney say that in my life. Maybe there are a few attorneys on YouTube who are saying that, and I guess I need to look them up. Because,
yeah, they are. So one of the first things I said when I came on is that the Duluth model is not a law.
You did say that.
It was guidelines. So
you did say that. You absolutely did.
So and then I backed that up with the fact that this is so, because the family court can basically do whatever it wants. They follow that guideline because it's more favorable to the woman. So, man bad, woman good, and then they just go, okay, I'm pretty sure someone's like, why did you sign this and all the rest of it? But at the end of the day, it's more like, this has been signed under duress by default. That's if you really want to nutshell it, the Duluth model will just be like, you sign this prenup under duress, no matter what the circumstance was. It's by default signed under duress. So we're going to void it. And now we will proceed with the dissolution of the marriage and division of assets. That's what I was getting to as far as that goes. But again, like you said, take all steps available, especially like that's the most critical thing, getting two lawyers in the same room, because totally agree. Like a lot of guys with money, they just, sign this so we don't get married. And that'll basically put you at the foot of the courts is the second you do that.
Absolutely.
Right on. Shout out to Ty City in the building. Shout out to Logic Sphere. He says, whatever happens to you after you trust a woman is your fault. He's been saying that for about roughly 2 years now. So shout out to shout out to Ty City. Lead attorney, how much time do you have for some more questions? Some more people in here with questions. How much more time do you have?
I can do at least maybe another 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. We got Chaos Rain. I normally leave you in the back chat because it sounds like somebody be wiggling the Ethernet cable while you're talking. So hopefully you
All right.
Oh man, I'm glad you got Chaos Rain. Oh, he comes in and supports my stream too. It's great to talk to you, Chaos Rain.
Yeah, I might do a short video, maybe on you down the line, not now. But my important question, besides we're talking about prenups, at what economic status a man, I guess, if he's in, let's say if he's like 50K a year, should he, if he's getting married to a woman, should he even invest or go and get a prenup?
Yeah, Chaos Rain, this is a great question. Let me take a step back. Prenups are generally rare, okay, in terms of the number. The vast majority of men who get married do not have prenups, the vast majority. And I'll tell you that, you know, in many divorces, everything's pretty much fine. You know, no one's really kind of getting screwed over. If the mother makes 60 grand and the father makes 60 grand and they got a kid, most of the time there's not going to be anything financially to talk about. Now, it could be like a Bernard situation where you're fighting over these kids, but prenups really don't cover kids anyway. So a prenup would not have helped in that situation. And so if all you're talking about is finances and you're making 50 grand and she's making 50 grand, or you're making 80 and she's making 85, I mean, it's really not going to offer so much protection. The biggest, well, it can. The biggest protections are when there are assets. Let's say there's real estate, there's separate property, there are bank accounts, let's say an inheritance or something like that you're keeping in a separate property. You want to make you're keeping in a separate account. You want to make absolutely clear, hey, whatever, not only is this money mine, but whatever I do with it, it's always gonna be mine. When there's separate property, or when there's a discrepancy between how much the parties make, that's when a prenup is really going to shine. So do you absolutely need a prenup to be safe? No, you don't. Well, but it's always safer to have one and not need it than to need one and not have it.
Well, this is, I think, an important question, because no man should look at the money that he has right now as the money that he's going to be making 10 years later. So would a prenup work? Well, let's just say, I'll use myself for an example. Let's just say, a similar situation. Let's just say somebody has a young, up-and-coming, thriving YouTube channel that he's making money on. Let's just say he gets married, but he's still projecting that this YouTube channel, at the rate that it's growing, that 5 years in the future, he's going to be staring down 500,000, if not 1 million subs, possibly being a millionaire YouTuber. If he's making, relatively normal, decent money right now, he's making solid money right now, but not so much to where he needs a prenup, would you say that individual should still get a prenup and get some things extrapolated out into the future to where, hey, if 10 years from now, if I'm worth X number of dollars and built it, and this is where it gets difficult, because, if somebody says, hey, I built it on my own while we were married, but you were married while you built it, so it turns into to both of y'all money. So could he work that into a prenup that says, no, if I grow my business to $10 million while I'm married to her, she doesn't just get to cut it in half and then leave when it's convenient. She's going to get, we're going to draw it up to where if I grow to this much, she's going to get, I don't know, 10% of whatever the value is. Could that work in a prenup?
Absolutely.
That's an interesting question. Excellent. Like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That can absolutely work. And you used to see this a lot with apps. Let's say 10, 15 years ago, a guy would be in his basement working on an app, and it wouldn't have any money, any value, and he's still working on it. Then he meets a girl, and he gets married, and he's still working on the app, but the app hasn't, it hasn't produced anything. And this is again back in the day, right, when apps were really taking off. That man could absolutely enter into a prenup, say, hey, we're going to split everything down the line 50-50. But this one thing over here, my little pet project that I work on 2 hours every night after work, and then I work on Saturdays or Sundays, whatever this turns into be, whatever this business turns into be, this app, whatever the value is, I am going to own it. And not only am I going to own that, I'm going to own any appreciation of it, and any money from that income stream that we get, whatever I use with that money is also going to be mine. You can absolutely do it. Now, that was like in the app age. That was like maybe like 15 years ago. What we've seen in the last maybe like 5 years ago, 7 years ago is this crypto, right? So maybe you bought some Ethereum for $7, and you bought a ton of it, and you say, listen, this Ethereum that I bought, whatever happens, any appreciation that I have with this Ethereum, this crypto, it's going to be mine. And when Ethereum goes from $7, I don't know what it is now, to $2,000 or $1,800 a coin, that appreciation will absolutely be yours. Absolutely.
But they couldn't turn around and argue, even though, I mean, it does seem hard to argue with an investment. You put $7 on Ethereum when it was worth 50 cents. It's kind of hard to say that, but with a business, that you're running, that we can assume. I mean, I like the example that you gave with the app, but with a business that you're running, they could assume or try to make a pretty good case that she was helping you, contributing to it, or doing this or doing that. So even though you put it in a prenup that says, hey, if I grow to the point to where this thing is worth $10 million, no, I'm not trying to send her back to the projects, but I'm not trying to cut everything in half either. So what kind of case could they make that, hey, I'm sure she was participating and helping you with this business? Or is it just, hey, contract?
It's just contract. Listen, it's going to say, listen, whatever you do in furtherance of this business, it's still going to be my business, right? It's still going to be mine. Whatever you do, whatever you don't do, whatever you invest, whatever you don't invest, whatever happens.
But so she go in there and say, I worked on that business just as hard as him 50% of the time. They just want to say, hey, you shouldn't have signed a stupid contract. If you knew you signed a contract saying you wouldn't get nothing out of it, you shouldn't have been in there working that hard on it.
Yeah, they
seriously gonna look a woman in the eyes and say that?
She had an attorney who explained it all to her.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, guys, listen. If you and again, I get the misunderstanding because you guys aren't in these courtrooms. But if a person is represented, the judge is like, hey, man, like, I don't know what you want from me, because you had an attorney who explained all of this to you. Now, if you want to go back and sue your attorney for having you sign some document that wasn't in your interest, that's between you and him. But don't come into this courtroom trying to throw your attorney under the bus, saying that you didn't understand what was going on when you signed it and your attorney signed it, and your attorney negotiated this on your behalf. This is what you wanted. So you can't say that you didn't want it. You can't say you didn't understand it, because you had legal representation. So this is what it is.
Right. That's the part I agree with right there. When he mentioned earlier, when you have if both sides have an attorney and that stuff gets notarized, signed, and sealed, and possibly mediated beforehand, then yeah, you got, like, I mean, then you could start using, more definitive terms or whatever. But again, the only caveat to that is when circumstances change, like, kids enter the picture for, like, but I guess for like business stuff, sure, like if it's a business and you clearly define assets, and businesses are assets, so you clearly define what assets are off limits and those that are not, then sure. Again, the only caveat being one of those major circumstances that changes that contract is children. So that's pretty much all I can think of as a rebuttal.
Yeah, and in terms of that, I'm not really sure how children change it so much, because children are not even included in a prenup. And a lot of people want to do this. A lot of people say, oh, well, this person's prenup got thrown out. Why did it get thrown out? That's the question you got to ask, guys. Why? And if you read the prenup that got thrown out, it's because the guy was like, hey, I get 50-50 custody and I only have to pay $20 in child support a month. That's what she agreed to. The judge is going to throw that thing out. The judge is going to throw that thing out so fast because children don't come into it. Which is why you need attorneys drafted in the first place, because an attorney would not have put your visitation schedule in there. An attorney would not have put your custody arrangement in there. An attorney would not have put your child support obligation in there.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at. Because children aren't included, what I'm saying is the caveat to that is that a major change like children would affect it. Like, because again, when she goes and said like our circumstances change, we got kids now and all the rest of it. Judges be more courts will be more compelled, particularly the family court, will be more compelled to side with the woman in that case once children are involved. And that's kind of a problem. But I do understand where you're coming from with as far as like having things defined, because that's the most important part. Define everything. But again, because children aren't a part of that, because children aren't a part of that original contract or agreement. Once children are introduced into the marriage, that changes things.
Right.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I don't see how it changes the agreement. It doesn't change their living circumstances, yes. But a car accident changes their living circumstances. A loss of a job changes their living circumstances. A thousand things will change a person's living circumstances. The contract is still the contract. That's why I love about when Bernard did his video. It cracked me up so because he's so right. He's like, contract. Like, whatever you say, I got you. Right? Whatever you say, I got you. No matter what happens, you signed it with your attorney who advised you.
Well, somebody is saying, I forgot exactly what part of the discussion we were at when he said it didn't work for Jeff Bezos. He said it didn't work for Jeff Bezos, and somebody else is asking a question. Hey, I should be super chatting these questions that I'm highlighting, but some of them are good. And he's asking, do you have to update prenups? Do you remember where we were at when he mentioned it didn't work for Jeff Bezos? I think he was referring to I don't know if he was referring to both of them having a lawyer. I don't know exactly what he was referring to. Hey, type that in the chat again. Let us know exactly what you were referring to.
Weren't they married for 20 years? Both of his wife?
Whoever had that comment up there, type in the chat exactly what you meant. Hopefully I'll catch it. Or either way, type it in the chat. I do want that to get answered. But
well, let me just say that I don't know anything about Jeff Bezos' divorce. I know he got divorced. I don't know if he had a prenup. I don't know any of the circumstances around it.
Mm-hmm. But and also I do want to make it very clear. I don't think I'm definitely not saying, and I don't believe the lead attorney is saying that go get married. You should get married. This is not nobody telling you need to get married. This is just an extension of what we always do. Information, putting the information out there. Your personal choices in your personal life are yours to make. Nobody's twisting anybody. I'm not in the business of twisting anybody's arm saying to go jump the broom with no damn body. Now that's we don't do that here. But but I gotta get that clip of T'Challa saying we don't do that here. I keep saying I forget that. I keep forgetting. But he's saying, do you have to update prenups?
You can update your prenup. You can absolutely do that. You can update the prenup or you can do a postnup. Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods, when he was married, he signed a prenup. And then it came out that he was sleeping with all these Waffle House waitresses. And his wife was like, listen, dude, this is what's going to happen. We're going to update this prenup. You're going to give me $5. You're going to give me $5 million off the rip. And then if we stay together 2 more years, you're going to give me like 80 grand or some 80 million. Sorry. We're updating this thing. And if we don't do it, oh man, I'm going to the press and I'm telling everything. I'm telling everything. And he couldn't afford to do that. He had all these endorsements. He was on top of the world back then. This was before his fall. And so he absolutely updated that prenup to try to keep her quiet. And she shut her mouth. But that prenup was updated and it cost him a lot of money. But, so the answer to the question is yes, you can update your prenup or even do a postnup or even update your postnup.
Wait a minute. See, now I'm confused. Maybe I'm not understanding how Tiger Woods' situation worked. It sounds like you said she knew about the cheating and she was like, let's update the prenup, but she only updated it to where she would get $5 million, but if they stay married for 2 more years, she get 80 million.
Yeah,
Was it under? Was she under the impression that he was about to stop messing with the Waffle House waitresses or something, and then
it
that's
was
why she went upside his head? Like what?
well, it's not like she knew about the Waffle House waitresses. Like she found out, and when she found out, that's when it hit the fan. She didn't know that he was cheating until he got caught, and then when he got caught, all these people started coming out.
So in his divorce, she ended up only getting $5 million or that $80 million. That's all she ended up getting.
I believe so. I believe that the she got a one time for renegotiating or updating, however you want to see it. It was really a renegotiation. Like, hey, you're gonna sign this document. Talk about signing under duress. Tiger Woods had to sign that damn thing under duress.
Yeah, I just thought about that. See, we don't think about men. That's a man who signed under duress.
That's exactly right. He signed under duress because he was super famous. He was on top of the world back then. It's hard for us to really remember how big Tiger Woods was back in the day before he fell off before this incident. But he was number one undisputed in golf, and he was black on top of that, or you can call him
blackish. Blackish.
Yeah, blackish. That's perfect. So he had a lot to lose. All these endorsements. So he basically had to renegotiate the prenup or update the prenup and give her all this hush money.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Tiger Woods, but he was actually the most top athlete of that decade of 2000 throughout the whole first 10 years on top of his game. He was huge. So when that thing happened, what was it, the end of 2000s, early 2010? I'm not sure when that incident happened. People feel said, and I hear a lot of women content creators talk this. I hear some men talk about that. This woman got half. She's like close to almost $250 million. I don't know if that was true or not, but I don't think that she got a lot out of it when she divorced him. So who knows?
I don't. Think
somebody is saying she got 100 million. I don't know if that's.
I heard she got 80 million. A Genuine Trucker says she got 100, so that's about the same. But everybody's been saying for years that he was worth $1 billion. So she really didn't screw him like she could have. She could have written books. She could have gone to the movie, made a movie. She could have gone to Hollywood. She really could have thrown this man under the bus, and she decided not to. Now, she got her 80 million, 90 million, 100 million, right? So she's set for life. Plus, they got the kids, so they got the child support coming in. So she said, listen, just let me get mine, set me up for life, and I'm out. I'll do my own thing. And she was a model herself. She had her own stuff going on. So she just took the 80 million, the 100 million, and she went on her own way.
Yeah. She got 10%. So
it's nothing.
Yeah. I know it is a lot of money. Like I know people look at that 100 million, like, damn, it's a lot of money, but it's 10%. He could have got, he was in California. He could have got hit for like 40.
Yeah.
So it's just like with Bezos, and I know a lot of people look at the amount of money that chick got, made her an instant billionaire, made her like the richest chick in the world. I get that, but that was like maybe 10 to 15% of his income. That dude was like, he was in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like, so she got a minuscule amount of money relatively. It's just that when you look at the number, you're like, oh, fuck. But it was low.
That's exactly right. Like she got so much money, but at the exact same time, when he paid her that money, his life did not change one instant. Like he could still afford everything that he could have afforded before.
Yeah, because she got 10 to 15% of hundreds of billions of dollars.
And don't forget, he has also small corporations as well. So he was well protected. So that's why they didn't really talk much about after that divorce.
Yeah, maybe it would be different if he was like 12 years old, but isn't if you're in your 60s and you've got billions, you basically just have an infinite amount of money.
Tiger says mid-40s.
I
think it's in mid-40s now. Mid-40s.
No, Jeff Bezos? Jeff Bezos. No, Bezos is old.
Oh, Jeff Bezos. Yeah, I think
he's over 60. He's over 60. Well, as far as I know, I thought he was over 60.
Okay, I'll double check.
But Black's word
in the able to spend it.
Yeah, Black's word in the building says Wade's wife tried to come back years after to get the divorce relitigated. He had remarried soon as he was up for that Bulls contract. Shout out to Black's.
Wasn't it Wade's wife who went out? She went to Home Depot and she bought that cardboard box, and then she bought that a Sharpie, and she went out on the street and with that cardboard box and wrote like, and she got her daughter too, and in the street, and she wrote, this is how this NBA player has us living, and she started sleeping in the street under that cardboard box.
I don't think that was Dwayne Wade's wife.
Who was that?
I don't know, but
somebody's wife went crazy, or was that? I was about to say Usher. That was somebody's wife. Some celebrity's wife went crazy. I don't know which wife that was. If anybody in the chat knows, now I feel bad. I don't want to say.
Oh, somebody said yes, it was. Somebody said yes, that was Dwayne Wade. Well, shout out to Black.
Yeah, I thought it was Dwayne Wade's wife.
But the reason I didn't think that was him, because if I understand it right, I think he ended up getting custody. So
because she was crazy. Any woman who does that is crazy.
Yeah. So I guess that just sealed the deal on her craziness, if anything. Yeah.
Yeah, what mother does that?
Yeah, just getting basic child support you make from Dwayne Wade, you're making enough to not be doing that crazy stuff.
She went super crazy.
But I'll say this with Dwayne. He was very smart to pay her off. I'm not sure they were married at the time, but he said, "Here, take this 4 or 5 minutes. Let me have the kids and go off your business." And like a sucker, she took the deal. And we know that women are going to consume. So if she spent it off, oh well, that's on her.
Right. The lead attorney don't got that much more time left. We about to wrap this up. If you got a quick question, anything you want to say, the link is in the chat one more time for you to come on up. But other than that, if nobody else come up, we're going to actually wrap this thing up. I'm giving you 2 minutes or so to come on up. If anybody is going to come up, I'm trying to look through my notes, see if it's anything else that I wanted to get out there. Chaos Rain, do you got any
I saw your boy Obsidian said that he disagreed with me about some stuff, and I was wondering what that was. I didn't know if he told you. We could talk about that or whatever.
Well, no, he never told me that. I could assume it was more or less a lot of it when you give your opinion on things, not necessarily your legal expertise. I remember when you was talking about something. I don't know if I disagreed or if it just rubbed me the wrong way. When you had talking about the mom who, let's just say there's a paternity issue, okay, and she knows this guy is not the father. She knows she could use the state. You talk about how in one case it's just, let's just say Pookie over here, and then working middle class guy, I don't know, making 75K or whatever over here, and you saying that she knows that you're probably not the father, but you had pointed out that her trying to pin that on you, and you had said something like she's actually a good mother or something along the lines. And I don't know if I agreed or disagreed with that, but it rubbed me the wrong way. So I don't know, maybe something like that. I was like, man, like I don't give those types an inch. I ain't gonna say she a good mother. She's a horrible human being.
Yeah, listen, I call a spade, and I'm gonna say things that rub a lot of people the wrong way. Like, I'm still getting emails today from when I said that men should prefer a 30-year-old woman to a woman that's the same woman and going through menopause at 51. Women cannot believe I said that.
That's manosphere dogma at this point. So I mean, the manosphere was with you on that one.
Well, but here's the thing, and this is what I want to fight against. This is what I just do not agree with. Just being, what I want for my channel. I don't know. Everybody has their own channel. What I want for my channel is the truth. All right, just the real truth. And if the truth is on the man's side, then I want to talk about it. But sometimes there can be a truth that's on the woman's side. And I want to talk about that too. I don't want to try to hide it, because if the truth is the truth, then men are going to benefit by knowing the information. All I want is for people to know the information, no matter who's saying it, no matter if it helps men or helps women. If it's the truth, it's the truth. And men need to understand. Men absolutely need to understand that when a woman has children, those children come before that man. Period. And a woman, especially if she sees herself as a good mother, is going to do everything to prioritize those kids. And I don't care if that hurts men's feelings, because it's the truth. It is the absolute truth. I don't care if that rubs men the wrong way. You know, men get so upset when they go on these dating apps, and these women are on here, and the women are talking about, you know, my kids come first, right? Because it's like, why you got to hit me over the head with it? Like, I already know I'm supposed to take you out to dinner all these times, and you're telling me that I'm number 4 on the priority list, right?
Yeah, I hate when women do that on a dating app. Even if it is the truth, women do that on dating apps. Even if it is the truth, you don't come out on a dating app putting stuff like that in your profile. That's just ridiculous. But
it's
anyway.
True. It's true.
You can ignore.
But there are a lot of men. There are a lot of men who feel like they should come first, and I need to let these men know that it's not going to be the case, because they have expectations of coming first and more. We're talking about guardian ad litem. I have been a guardian ad litem for so many years, and I've been down in juvenile court, and I've represented children, 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds. I've represented children who had a mother that put the boyfriend first. First, and it's child abuse 101. It's child abuse 101, and so that's a terrible thing that can happen when a woman will put her boyfriend that he's known for 2 months over her 8-year-old daughter, because then stuff starts happening with the boyfriend and the 8-year-old daughter. And it's stuff that the judge sees. It's stuff that guardian ad litem sees. It's stuff that we see in the legal community, but the majority of people don't see.
Right. No. The woman, absolutely, she should. Yeah. I didn't even forgot to.
I mean, what do you want the woman to do?
No, she absolutely should put the child first. That part is obvious. You had mentioned the chicks on the dating app that say that. I just say leave that off the app. But
I can agree. You say, well, some of the stuff or the way you said it rubbed you the wrong way, and I will agree that the way that I said it will rub people the wrong way. I agree that, but I don't have a problem with that. This is what Kevin Samuels says all the time. Like all women dog Kevin Samuels because they're like, oh, well, what you're saying might be true, but you could have phrased it. You could have phrased it in a nicer way.
Right.
No, I ain't phrasing nothing in a nicer way.
Right. Yeah. You were saying it in the backdrop of paternity fraud. And then I think this is what prompted this super chat. And I knew you weren't saying this. So that's why I took a step back. But when you said it in the backdrop of that paternity fraud, so is he saying that paternity fraud is a good thing? I knew you weren't saying that, but to be mentioning that
no, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
because again, like you were talking about, there are things that seem obvious, but let's analyze them and let's be intellectually honest about it. What is he saying? He's saying, so is he saying that paternity fraud is a good thing? There's another question behind that. The question is it a good thing for who? For who? If you're a man, it's one of the worst things that can ever happen to you. But what if you're the 3-month-old and the mother can either put you as a 3-month-old with Pookie, who's got dope in the kitchen, or it can put you with the blue pill guy who's making $85,000 a year as a middle manager. If you are the 3-month-old, you're going to love paternity fraud. Because you need to be in a place that's safe. You need to be in a place that's secure. You need to be in a place where there are no guns, where there's no dope, where the cops aren't trying to execute search warrants. For a 3-month-old, paternity fraud can be the best thing in the world. Now, what happens when that 3-month-old turns into a 27-year-old and she doesn't know who her father is? Now there's an issue, right? But as a 3-month-old, you'll say, well, I'll cross that bridge as a 27-year-old when I get to it. Because if you put me with Pookie, I might not get to 27. Right? These are the things that we really need to think about. And now, right? And now let's say the 3-month-old benefits. Let's be honest, guys. Let's be honest. A 3-month-old can absolutely benefit from paternity fraud. 100%. And so, but half that 3-month-old genes are with the mother. The mother, went through a long incubation period with that 3-month-old, man, 9 months, breastfeed and all that. The mother has made a tremendous investment in that 3-month-old. The mother sees that 3-month-old as a part of her. And so now you say, Jacques, is that what you say? He said, is paternity fraud a good thing? But for who? For you, it's bad. Of course, you're the man. But what about the mother? Is it good for the mother? A lot of times it's so good for the mother. I did a video where the mother could have been with Pookie, or she was with a dude who was buying her necklaces and taking her to trips to Dubai. You're going to tell me that the mother was not benefited by the paternity fraud, especially because the state will not punish her. The state will almost encourage her to commit the paternity fraud. So there's no risk for her. She's going to screw you, and if it works, fine, you're screwed and she's benefited. And if it doesn't work, then there's no skin off her back. This is what I want, guys. I want us to take one extra step, ask one extra question. Just go one step further. You say, well, do prenups work? No, they get thrown out. Ask one question further. Why? Why do they get thrown out? You say, is paternity fraud a good thing? For who? For who? You cannot tell me that it's better for a 3-month-old to live with Pookie than it is to live with a middle manager who's making $85 a year. And I've seen it, guys. I don't know what you guys have seen, but I've represented 3 months old. I've represented 9-year-olds. Like, this is what I do.
Okay, and I guess for most guys, the problem would come in is that, okay, we can agree the middle manager that makes $85K is better for the 3-month-old to be with them. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. But if he ain't the pappy, should the mere fact that it's better for the kid to be with him, that should have zero bearings on decisions made in that courtroom, correct?
100%. You're absolutely right. I think the mother should go to jail.
Okay.
I totally agree. That is the wrong thing legally to happen. That is the wrong thing for men, that men should not be forced to support another man's child. If you want to come in and be super stepdad and you know that you're being super stepdad, fine. If you want to come in and adopt a child that you know is not yours, fine. There are a lot of people who foster orphans and foster kids who need help. Those people are angels in my book, fine. But the key is you have to know, you have to be allowed to know whether you are supporting a child that's yours or not yours. Like, if you are a man and you are involuntarily supporting a child that's not yours, that's one of the worst things that can happen to a man ever.
Yeah, and I live in Michigan, and they seem to make decisions based off more or less what you're saying. What's better, if it's better for the child to be with this guy who signed the birth certificate, but it wasn't his, or she said he was the daddy, and the paperwork went through, and now he's paying, and oh well, that's how they operate in Michigan.
That's exactly right, because that's what I said an hour and a half ago. The state does not want to pay for these kids. The state will rather you pay, as a man, the state will rather you pay for a kid that is not yours 1,000,000 times before the state has to put 1 penny on that kid. So the state will encourage the mom to write your name down as the father. The state will encourage the mom to put that baby on you before the state will step in and try to assume the responsibility for the kid. And the state is absolutely not going to put the responsibility on the mom. The state's not going to be like, hey, you decided to have this kid with Pookie, so you better find a way. Because that's what the state tells men. The state tells men, you better find a way, right? You lose your job, but you got child support, you better find a way. You got this child support debt that we've put interest on, and now you're in the hole. Now you can't pay. Now we've suspended your license. Now you can't drive to work. You better find a way. But the state won't tell women that. The state won't tell women, oh, you've got a child that you can't support, you better find a way. No, the state's not going to tell the woman that. The state's going to come to you. And the state's going to encourage her. That's what they do in Michigan, encourage her to write your name down when they apply for government benefits. And if it's not yours, well, it's not yours, fine. The state does not punish the woman at all for lying on these forms to try to get aid from you. So go ahead.
Oh no, I was just about to shout out number 16 real quick. You can go ahead and say what you're going to say, wrap up. I'll get through the rest of these super chats, and then we'll throw it to we got Trini in the building who wants to ask a question, which will probably be the final question, because I know I shut it down at the 3-hour mark, and we rolling up. We're 12 minutes away from that. So, well, let me just go ahead and go. I got this right here. Drew M in the building. He says a 3-month-old has no agency, nor does she know anything about the court system. That is all on the mother. She should have been thinking about that. Team back in here, he says, not my child, not my problem. Don't get skeeted in by Pookie. Absolutely. Absolutely. Who else we got here? I think that might be the end of it. Okay, yeah, that was the last of the super chats. You could finish up what you were saying, and we're gonna throw it to Trini down there at the bottom.
Well, I was finished, but let me just say this too. For all the men who get mad, apparently that children are being prioritized before them. There's a way you can protect yourself, guys. And I'm not talking about going MGTOW necessarily. If you want to go MGTOW, fine, you can do that. There's no problem. But all you need is information. Information really is it's gonna protect you. If you have a child, just let the mom know, hey man, once the child gives birth, it's DNA test all the way. And once you get a DNA test, that's going to go so far. Now, a lot of men wait 3 years, 4 years, and then they want a DNA test, and then it comes back that the kid isn't his. Now there's a problem because he's already signed the damn birth certificate, right? What I'm telling you is what we talked about 2 hours ago. Come in cutthroat. Come in bombing. Do not decide to bomb 4 years later. It's going to be too late.
Bunker TV says sprinkle niggas. I don't even know if you get the sprinkle reference, Lee.
I don't.
It's
is that the Dave Chappelle?
No. It's this female YouTuber who she teach women how to get the bag from men, and so she's her little phrase is a sprinkle. So that's what he's talking about.
Bunker TV is exactly right that they will try to get you.
Yeah, Charles Merchant says the state does not recognize female aggression. My uncle had to pay back welfare to 2 separate counties because his baby mama committed fraud. They refused to separate children from their mother. Thank you for the super chat.
He's absolutely
Charles
right.
Merchant, thank you for the super chat. All right, so we're gonna go to Trini for probably the last question of the day. Go ahead, Trini. You got the floor. You got the mic.
Hi, good afternoon, gentlemen. I just wanted you. Well, first, Bernard, thank you for the platform. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lead attorney, I just had a very brief question. I just wanted your opinion. So I went into a family law court. I'm on the East Coast. I went to modify child support. I put it up for 2019. I was injured. My arm was down. I was out of work for like 6 months. I recently just went into the court to try to modify to now have the modification. My life had changed. I got married. I live an hour away from my son, and I've consistently been in his life. I was communicating to the judge, and my state is 128 overnights but I already had joint custody. It changed to 92. However, I argued the judge like, well, she doesn't give me access to him, so I wouldn't be able to get this resolved in a natural way. Those are just some of the things I wanted to communicate. Like my income had went down real low. I was still working like 3 years, but the case was 3 years old, and I'm waiting on a decision. I just wanted to hear your take on that. That's all. Unfortunately, I did not have a lawyer.
No problem. I guess I didn't understand what was. And thank you for letting me know the kind of background on it. What was the question? I think I missed the question.
Sure. I modified child support for my son. I had gotten injured. My arm was like no good for like 6 months, and I placed the modification in 3 years ago, but the case was just heard last week.
So you already went to trial on the case?
Yes, I just wanted to hear your take. I'm waiting to hear the magistrate's decision.
Okay. Usually cases don't take 3 years. This is rare for a modification case to take 3 years. I will say though that in a huge part of 2020 was shut down because of what was going on in the nation. So I definitely understand that. Modifications will take an extraordinary amount of time when they're done without an attorney, because there'll be no one to push the case through. There is a general dislike for modifications downward. Judges don't like that because they feel like it's not, what did Zero say, or Chaos? It's not in the best interest of the child, right? And it's usually not in the best interest of the child for the child to receive less money, and that is going to influence a huge. I mean, really, that's the whole standard of whether you're going to get the modification or not. It's not whether it's in your best interest. It's not whether you lost your job. It's not whether your arm got hurt. It's what's in the best interest of the child. And that's hard to show. It's really hard to show that it's in the best interest of the child to receive less money. However, judges will do it if you can show a significant change in the circumstances and in your ability to earn income. If your arm was hurt, and let's say you're a roofer or you're in construction and you need your arm, then that's one thing. If you were, I guess your arm can affect a lot of different types of jobs. So hopefully you're able to present the evidence sufficiently to show or to justify that change. What a judge will often say is that even though you lost your job, or even though you hurt your arm, if your arm is not permanently hurt, then your arm will presumably get better. And if your arm gets better, then you will be in the same position to make the same amount of money that you were making before. So a judge is not going to think that a permanent downward modification in your child support obligation is going to be necessary when, if your arm gets better, you'll be able to earn the same income, really, because that's the whole reason why you're asking for a modification. You're saying, Judge, I was making $85,000, and now I hurt my arm and I'm making $45,000. So you should adjust my child support down to a level of a man who's making $45,000. Well, the judge is going to say, yeah, but when your arm gets better, aren't you able to make the 85 again? Right? Why would a judge reduce your income, reduce the child support, when in 3 months your arm's going to be good as new? Presumably, I don't know. I don't know what happened to your arm, right? We haven't talked about it, but I'm just talking to you generally about how a judge thinks. A judge is going to be very reluctant to give you a downward modification for something that is temporary. And a judge is going to look to see what your earning capacity is. And if you are voluntarily or involuntarily earning less than your capacity. So a judge is going to take all of that into account. It's very difficult to get modifications through without an attorney. However, I will say that judges were handing out modifications like hotcakes last year because of what was going on, and everybody was losing their jobs. So, maybe you'll be lucky and catch a judge in his good graces. But that's kind of how it goes. Getting a modification from a judge is typically difficult to do because a judge has to say that it's in the best interest of the child, and it's hard to say that getting less money is in the best interest of the child. However, if you can show that you lost your job and that you just cannot earn that same amount, then a judge will reduce your child support.
Shout out to Paul G. He ain't dead yet.
No, respect, Paul.
I didn't want to. It got rolled in there in a straight jacket.
I didn't want to sound like a pookie.
Get back
I
to
didn't
work.
want to sound like I didn't want to sound like a pookie. No, I got like a rare heart disease after that. So that, it's just, that's what happened. And sometimes that might affect my earnings, but it's not like I don't love my child. It's just something that happened 3 years ago that I was arguing. That's all.
Absolutely. Listen, I don't even think you should be paying child support. Let's start from there. I think you should, if it's possible for you to have your child or your children 50% of the time, I think that's the way it should be. And then you pay for your child when your child's with you, and she pay for the child when the child's with her, right? And then if there was some reason why, let's say you live 300 miles away, or let's say you're in the Army and you can't have 50-50 custody because of your job, then maybe child support should come in. But I have some fundamental differences with the way that child support is enacted in this country from the get-go. But having said that, a lot of times when people say, when fathers say, I need to reduce my amount of child support, everybody comes in and says, oh, you're a horrible dad. You're a horrible dad. And so what you just said, Trini, I mean, you were kind of building yourself up because maybe you get this sentiment. It certainly was not a sentiment that I was saying, that I was expressing. But maybe you're sensitive to it. You say, hey, I'm trying to reduce my child support, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad father. You said I still love my child. And I totally agree with that. And it's funny how when men say they need to reduce their child support, everybody's like, oh, you're a deadbeat. But when Halle Berry fights for 6 years to reduce this lady fought for 6 years to reduce her child support. No one ever came out and said she was a bad mom. Right. So there's a lot of injustice here. There's a lot of prejudice here against men. It's absolutely true.
Well, there's no such thing as a bad mother. And that guy should have had a stronger arm, and then it wouldn't have got hurt. So if the lead attorney, if you ever come back, I think an interesting conversation would be how your profession is both an influence on feminism and is like the biggest profession that feminism takes advantage of, which has literally created all of the laws that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you until you said that feminism has created all the laws. Just because, and me and Bernard, we talked about this. I mean, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was all men making these laws.
Right. Yeah. Men were making the laws, but under the influence. Okay, I'll put it this way. So when we gave the franchise to everybody and was no longer a republic back in 1920, and feminism became the biggest demographic, and I use feminism colloquially because it's women, which is like 52% of the voting block, and then feminist men, which are an additional like 30%. So they have 80% of the vote. So once they started voting themselves money and laws, I'm just saying, and I'm not putting this on your shoulders, I'm saying your profession, because legislative, executive, and judicial are all legal. They're all lawyers, basically. So it's both being influenced by feminism because they have the votes, and then it's an influencer because they get to create the double standards and all. Like we can look at 1964, which I'll talk about the year of the power up, where they got abortion and all of their reproductive all of their reproductive hypergamous enablers. They got all of that in 1964. A lot of the welfare stuff that they have now. A lot of that was because they were able to just basically leverage the vote and leverage the legal profession to get everything they wanted. Now, this doesn't mean that lawyers are at fault. You're just doing your job. Like the profession is just doing its job. I'm just talking about the general conversation of how your profession is basically being manipulated to create all of this. You know about the Southern Poverty Law Center and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So and things, for instance, things like the Duluth model, which we went over, things like the Title IV, which we went over. All of this stuff is basically created and voted on by pretty large majority, and they kind of have to do it because a lot of judgeships depend on votes. Some of them are appointed. I don't have to tell you this stuff. Some are appointed, some are voted in, and all of this stuff counts. All this stuff matters. Politicians are leveraged through feminist lobby, which has all the money because they vote themselves all the welfare money, and then they get to create and maintain these laws and create loopholes and stuff like that in order to have us in here talking about how unfair things are and how difficult it is to change it. So
I hear what you're saying, but and I totally agree that feminism certainly has a huge part to play in this, and I totally agree that the legal system can be weaponized against men. But this is kind of like how I view Obama and Obama being elected, and so many Black people were so happy that Obama was elected in that first term. Lord knows I was. But the truth of the matter is that it's not really Black people that helped put that man in office. I mean, if, like me and Bernard were talking about, if Black people are only 13% of the population, then it's not like just Black people could have gotten that man in. There was millions of white men, white
Mhm.
people, not white men, white people, white men and women to help get Obama in. And so when you talk about feminism and women voting and this and that, okay, I feel you, Zero. But damn, like they can't do anything without the men. Right?
Right.
These laws aren't
That's
being
a very popular. That is a very popular rebuttal. And it's absolutely right. They can't do anything without the men. However, it's besides the point.
I
They
guess I
they
missed the
have the
point.
votes. They have the votes and they have the power. Like I understand that we all understand that they can't do anything without the men.
When
But
did they have the power?
Okay.
When did the women have the power? Let me ask that. That's what I'm not understanding.
So whether the power is given to them or allowed or anything, whatever words we want to use, they have it.
No, I totally disagree with this. The words actually do matter. They actually do matter. It's not like you can say, "Oh, women were given the power, so now women have it, and let's examine the women." No, you're not being intellectually honest. Who gave the women the power? Let's blame the people who deserve to be blamed.
We like to say that as well. We like to say that men gave women the power, but understanding that the power is never given, it's taken. So we can.
I was using your words.
Right. I'm just saying we like to say those things, but they weren't really given the power. They weren't really given the power. I mean, they took it. They just took it in a way where men like to be very, very self-aggrandizing and say, no, we gave it to them. No, they took it. They just used their nuclear weapon, which is between their legs. So they took the power, they got the vote and voted themselves all the welfare and all the money and all the laws. So yes, we technically gave them whatever they have, but we can't take it back, or else we would have.
I mean, it's just fair to say that men bent to the will of women, and that's why we're in the situation that we're in, to where the lead attorney is explaining how everything is unfair for men. Is because men, going back to the 60s, I think you said 1964 was more or less the start of it. They started bending to whatever.
Start.
Well, not the start, but I mean those were a lot of landmark cases or situations started happening around then. When you talk about the birth control pill, abortion, and a lot of other stuff. I'm not gonna try to run through the list because I'm gonna botch it. But basically, is it just fair to say, I think y'all probably can agree on this, that sometime around that time, men started bending to whatever women was saying that they ultimately wanted, and that's what led us to be in the situation that we're in. By both of your description, you would agree that it's unfair for men.
Right. My point was, it doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter whether we gave them the power. Now, like it's one of those things, like we can say we gave them the power, sure, but they have it. Like that's my main point. They have it. So now we have to argue these unfair things in society and how everything is. And there's really no way to reverse any of it in a feasible manner anyway. So we have to come here and discuss ways either how to avoid the laws like a ninja, or talk about potential ways we can try and fight back. Which ultimately, if we look at the numbers or look at the mechanism surrounding how to do that, like for instance the lobbying side of things, and then you look at the money that that we could potentially galvanize versus what feminism actually has, like in their pockets. If we look at every institution that they have, like basically, I'm just trying, like, it's just the conversation. It's not a thing where I'm trying to like go at anybody's head. It's more of like an examination. Your profession is more. It's a weapon. But it's necessary. Like it's literally necessary for a society to function, and then it's been weaponized and turned into a Frankenstein monster.
Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah, it's interesting. Seeking My Creator in the building says reset 3, 2, 1. I disagree with the concept of people saying reset conversations. I think teachers have to teach the same lessons over and over again from time to time. It's always a new audience. Stop saying the reset thing. I disagree with the concept. Charles Merchant
I
in the
don't even
building.
understand the reset thing.
No, that's something that they say when we talk about something that we've talked about before. They
No,
said
no, Bernard. That's been bastardized. So the reset is basically how. So dudes will come on and say, "How come women get mad when I come home from work and I'm tired? No one rub her feet." And then a week later, somebody will say the same thing, and a week later, someone will say the same thing, or someone like the lead attorney will come in and explain particulars about legal stuff, and then somebody will come in tomorrow and repeat. And they've been here; they were here watching the stream. And they'll come in tomorrow, and they'll have goldfish memory and forget everything that happened just now. And then they'll come in the next day and do the same thing, and the next day and do the same thing. So this is why you keep seeing the same streams or the same videos every single day for the last decade. It's like no one's paying attention or listening to any of the information. That's where the resets come from. It's not the fact that there's new people coming in, because new people actually watch this stuff, and this is why. And you can hear when they speak. A lot of them, they already know what's being said. They already understand the information. They just want to reset it so they can find a good. They're playing jump rope. The rope is turning. They want to jump in, so they're looking for a good spot to do it. And what better spot than to reset to something that's already been discussed that they can actually talk about? That's part of the reset as well. It's just people kind of doing it on purpose in order to try and get into the conversation. Which getting into the conversation is a good idea, but fuck, I mean. Jump, learn the basics and then jump in after.
Okay, I will grant you that. I do suffer from goldfish memoryitis, so I do struggle with that. But Charles Merchant in the building says feminism happens when you suffer a witch to live. Yeah, shout out to the good book. It says thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. That is correct. Anyway, we got to close on that. We got to close on a biblical reference to witches. That's what we're going to close it out on today. Hey, look, lead attorney, thank you for this. Was a great show. This is one of I'm putting it at the top of the list. One of my favorite shows I've ever done. I was hoping Zero would come up to, and it happened. This was the exact show that I wanted. So I'd like to thank both of you for being here. And moderators, one last time, start dropping the lead attorney's channel in there. If y'all, I know y'all been doing it periodic. Okay. Yep. Okay. So people, Gail, like you said, Gail, she's on the job. So shout out to
give her a wrench.
Yeah, she got one. Yep, she got one.
Gail is awesome. Yeah, shout out to Gail. Shout out to Zero, man. I love talking to young brothers who are just
no, Zero's like 57. Don't call him young.
You said young.
Oh no, he's early 40s.
I was looking at the picture. The picture looked like a young man in his 30s.
No, that is a person trying to figure out 1 + 1.
That's a random picture of a random. I think that came from a movie, but anyway, yeah, he's doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were the person in the picture, so I apologize.
No, that's a person trying to figure out 1 + 1. The things I talk about on my channel will get me fired today.
I hear you. So no, I appreciate our conversation. I love talking to young and older brothers who are super intellectual, who are just, we're all just trying to figure this stuff out. So I love it. I'm glad you had me on here. I love when people disagree, because that's how we really learn. I mean, that's really what the court system is. The court system is supposed to make an environment where people disagree. And that's where a lot of men get tripped up, because men want to come in with logic and reason. And like you said, Bernard, they don't come in with that smoke. They don't come in cutthroat. They just want to come in and play nice. But it's hard to figure out what the truth is when people are playing nice. But you figure out what the truth is when people are playing mean. And so I love when there's some type of conflict here, because we can really boil down and really see what the deal is. And so I appreciate you having me on here. You can invite me back anytime. I love to see what your people agree with and disagree with. I don't mind any disagreements at all. I know, I say stuff to women and they write me and they get mad, but I'll say stuff to men too. I'll say, hey, that paternity fraud was a really good thing for that 3-month-old. And now men are up in arms. I say, hey, you got to look at these things from a lot of different perspectives. And a lot of people, we don't want to do that. We just want to look at it through our own shoes. And you're not going to get very far in life when you do that. You can always get further by putting your perspective in other people's shoes to kind of see where they're coming from. That way you see the dynamics. So if men do this, if young men who are getting married, if they can put themselves in the shoes of the state, if they can put themselves in the shoes of a woman, if they can put themselves in the shoes of a child and see what the dynamics are, see where the interests at, then they will see, hey man, this whole system might not favor me at all, right? Because it's not just about you. A man is just one person in the whole system, but you got children in the system, you got judges in the system, you got attorneys in the system, right? You got mothers in the system. There's so many people with interest in the system. And so to the extent that we can talk about it and get the information out, then men will have the information they need to make informed decisions. But you're not going to get this information if everybody's just sitting around and patting themselves on the back. You're not going to get this information if people are all sprinkle, talking crap about men. But let's be honest, you're not going to get this information either if men are all patting themselves on the back, talking about prenups don't work. Right? We need the information so that these younger men can make the decisions that are going to influence their lives. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Right on, man. This was great. I gotta read what Pablo said real quick. He said, "How come women in the Middle East didn't take power, or Latin America? Because they didn't give them any." I'm going to be bringing Ike on. Going to be talking about that. I haven't even confirmed with Ike yet, but I do want to bring him on to talk about that less than 1% divorce rate in Nigeria.
I would love to talk to him about that too. I just on a personal level, I would find that super interesting.
Yeah, that'll more than likely be the Sunday show. But yeah.
And listen, I think Pablo is making an excellent point, and that's something that Zero is going to need to think about, because it's not like women just come in and start taking power, because then you want to blame the women.
No, Western men folded. There's no way around that. They folded.
I do not blame women. I don't have that. Yeah. That's not me.
Okay.
So
I just really want to focus. My whole thing is two things. One is information, and second is the second thing is personal accountability. And when I look at women talk, I don't see any accountability on their side. And men are very
I've been saying that for a while now. Like, again, on my channel, I've outlined the history of feminism, what started, where it came from, all of that. So I mean, it's too detailed to go over now, but all I'm saying is once and again, smarter people than me have figured this out. This is all done, 2 decades ago. This was figured out decades ago. I'm just basically one of many. So, I mean, if you want the short version, as soon as women got the vote, they became the largest voting bloc, along with the male feminists, which really started the decline. This is actually recorded history, which you can go back and see for yourself. Birth rates, marriage rates, and all the rest of it. You can also see the accumulation of feminist laws from the inception of the franchise being given to everybody from 1920 up till now, including 1964 which was the big year, and then on into the 70s and 80s and so forth. Even going so far as one of your peers, I forget this woman's name, but she created even more of an obstruction to getting things done, where she created a intersectionality, which basically it's woman speak for my struggle is more struggle than your struggle because I'm a black woman, which is bullshit, because feminism is not race it doesn't use race as an identifier. It's women need this, so we just vote ourselves this stuff, and then you get yes dear to death. Again, I've outlined all this stuff, and it's all researchable. All basically, I make it so it's not me you're arguing with. You're arguing with the laws that are on the books. So it's more of a thing that you can actually see for yourself once you do the research. Because I don't want anybody taking my word for it. It's literally recorded history. So that's how feminism works. They just vote themselves the welfare and vote themselves all the legal power, and then you either succumb to it or you don't. So and again, I'm not trying to have a argument about it, because I'm not blaming women for any of that shit, because men did give them the power, but when we say give, it's more of this. It's like this self-aggrandizing way of saying that, you know, we're alpha, we gave them the power, when it's basically they took it from us because they used the sexual reproductive dynamic to do it. You know, they just like, do you want what I have? Well, give me what I want. And they can do this after you can't do this in a civilization where like religion is the law and stuff like that, where physical consequences are a thing. You can do that here because our societal structure doesn't work in that way. We're not barbaric. So you can do that. You can do that when a society becomes as affluent as United States. So they can then leverage that sexual reproduction to get what they want because there are no physical consequences. And if you want a society, I mean, you do have to have, you know, rules against, you know, beating the hell out of chicks to get what you want. But at the same time, I mean, men have to understand, instead of being self-aggrandizing, we have to understand that when a society does get to that point and women do leverage that power that they have with the vagina, and you give them what they want, then I mean, it is what it is. We can say we gave it to them, but they took the power and they have it. I mean, proof of that is the law. So they have the power. They have the laws to back it up. Nothing I'm saying can't be backed up by just looking at our laws.
All right, we about to go. We've been trying to get out of here. Y'all holding me hostage at this point.
my bad. I'm sorry about that. I think it's cool to talk to him because, you know.
Oh no, definitely, yeah. And I hope that he becomes a reoccurring member. Hopefully, whenever there's a major, I mean, he'll cover it on his channel when there's, you know, major, you know, issues that could use some legal explaining. But hopefully it becomes a reoccurring thing where I can always reach out to him and he can come here and drop some information on us. But lead attorney, you got the last word, and I'm pushing the end stream as soon as you get done talking because I got to get out of here at this point.
I realize so we can do it.
I just want to thank Zero, and I want to thank Gail and all the people in the chat, all the people that super chat, and all the people that are watching. And really, just the biggest shout out to you, Bernard. I really appreciate you having me on your show. I think there's information that men need and men need to hear. Some of this information, a little bit of this information, is going to come from attorneys. Not a lot of attorneys in the Black manosphere, at least. And I have a particular perspective about certain things that I think is helpful. So I just appreciate you having me on here to help me get my message out.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, everybody who contributed to the show today. If you like, share, subscribe, super chatted, Cash App, did anything to participate in today's show, I appreciate you greatly. And Rocco Killer just came through at the buzzer with a super chat. You're trying to hold me hostage even longer. Shout out to appreciate you, Rocco Killer. And we are out of here, gentlemen. Oh, and ladies. Peace.